Let's
gaming
go.
train, and it looks like Q, me and yourselves are kind of on the outside.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out if we're the ones that are like huffing copium here, or if it's just because everyone else is going with such safe picks. I mean, you definitely can't blame anybody for expecting S8UL to come out on top, a team that has shown consistency. And then, of course, for
S8UL on top.
VKG, I mean, defending EWC champions, what better way to qual for EWC than by taking match point finals here today? Although, one thing that I did want to throw out, and I guess maybe for me, kind of crazy seeing VK Don suggesting VKG here, because I do know on the podcast, Don also threw out the idea, and you and I were talking about it a bit in the green room, but is there a chance that we see VKG turn into the gatekeepers towards the end of the day? A team that we just talked about doesn't necessarily need to perform today. They're already in EWC. If there is a team like one of the two that we picked, Orchid Gen G, who's sitting on the bubble, is there a chance that maybe, especially on some of the maps where they land next to them, we see them try and push a little early and take those squads out?
Will be interesting. Who knows? But I mean, if we're going off scrims, BKG did win scrims yesterday, and they won it pretty comfortably. So match point scrims as well. So if going off scrims, the boys seem like they might want to take the victory and cement it that way as well, which would be crazy also. We'll wait and see. I guess we got some more stats to look at, Q, and that is the most successful drop spots on each maps.
I gotta say, I'm not surprised that Barometer is on here. I feel like we see a decent share of Barometer zones. I think one of the things that surprises me so much about Barometer is when we do end up going there, I feel like the end zones get so chaotic and clustered.
Let's go, guys.
That the team that lands there still is able to find a fair majority, a fair share of wins is kind of crazy to think about.
Sorry.
Barometer, though, one of the craziest stats. I feel like maybe it's because we see a fair few, I don't know if we've seen a fair few Barometer zones, but I feel like we have had
solar area se bhi
fair
aake
few end
nikal rahe hain
zones in Barometer. And well, this one would give us a good understanding, and maybe I'll take that back because it doesn't look like there's been much action for end zones.
Strong point.
No, to be fair, right?
True.
Like, most of it's in the middle, so
it has been it is very close towards Echo. Sorry, Pylon and Jurassic. So you're right there. But you have a look at these end zones. These are the heat map end zones for every region, not just APAC South. So has been a very middle-orientated kind of ending here for Stormpoint, where E District and Olympus seems to be a little bit more mixed.
I can't say I'm surprised to see the bright hot on Olympus up by Rift, though. I feel like it's calmed down a bit since the start of the split. I felt like we were getting a lot of Rift up towards Olympus there. But yeah, definitely intriguing to see how each map seems to bring a little bit of different flavor, whether it be more, outskirts when you look at Olympus, obviously Stormpoint we were talking about earlier being more central, but it does feel like we've seen a relatively healthy, fair mix as far as, I guess you can say, northern and southern zones, which is nice to see a mix of the two, especially on like, let's say, a Stormpoint where you have that elevation heading up north, where it does kind of change the dynamic a bit for some of those long rotates. But always interesting to see, at least when you get to the end of a split, when you have that larger sample size, kind of where things are ending traditionally.
Let's go and have a look at our legends as well. Our top most picked legends, and it seems like been pretty close between Watson and Alter.
Yeah, I mean, obviously something to keep in mind here. This is most picked legends. So when you talk about your legends that get picked a lot early on, they aren't going to have as many picks, obviously, in those later games because of the ban. So Crypto, we'll see a lot of Crypto game one, but because Crypto is probably going to be taken off the board in game number one, obviously not on this list here. I think the one that really stands out to me is I would probably say two that are surprising, but one we saw early on in the season where it felt like Ultra in other regions still somehow finding their way banned relatively earlier, at least like the middle parts of sets, always seem to make it through an APAC South somehow. And then also Newcastle, which obviously has kind of gone through these waves of being picked at a very high rate and then not so much. But whenever you think about just what's in that kit. One, you have obviously the ult and then the mobile shield, which you have two different ways to be able to kind of hunker down, but also that reset ability to be able to pick people up with that shield as well and move them. I'm kind of surprised that Newcastle doesn't get picked a little more, honestly.
I guess what comes with that would be the most banned legends as well. And at the moment, it does look like the top 4 are pretty consistent for this region also. But we do have that little Axel ban on the right. But I do feel like we haven't really given enough chance for Axel to be banned, as Axel has only really been in the region for a couple of weeks. But Crypto, Valkyrie, Mad Maggie, and Gibby all getting banned each game day that we've had.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen the crypto pretty much. Has there been a day that crypto hasn't gone after game number 1? I don't think it has. The Valkyrie has definitely been intriguing because I feel like that one has been a little bit more region specific. We definitely seen it in other regions, but I think as far as how early Valk's been getting banned, I feel like it happens a little sooner in APAC South, other than more than the others. But I mean, when you look at the other bands, can't be too surprised. I feel like bands 3 and 4 that are on the screen kind of go hand in hand, right? Usually Maggie comes out to help counter the Gibby, then Gibby obviously comes out a little bit later on. But we have seen over the course of this split, Stoney, a lot of records getting broken, especially that damage record per game, and a lot of that has been off of the back of that Maggie. So not surprised to see 9 bans there.
I guess the last one we can talk about before we get into the maps today, Q, is the most used weapon. And I think nothing's really changed as much for APAC South, as R99 has been the top gun majority of the time in this region. But for the Hemlock being the second most picked weapon, obviously that is thanks to the change that it had a couple of splits ago.
Yeah, had the change to the breach charge, so ends up getting picked up a little bit more. Also, and just with the fact you have that in your hands more naturally, you're going to be using that, not just the breach, but obviously the second side of that being just in the natural fire as well. So I think when you do look at the overall damage of your top 5, can't say that I'm too surprised. Although I do want to give a big shout out down there at the bottom pick for number 5. I'm sure our boy Wig watching will be more than happy seeing that in the top 5 as far as damage getters.
I feel like Gen G maybe made Longbow get in there just from the last block that we had. I think there was one game Asia had like 4k damage or 3.8k damage. I reckon it would have all just been with that Longbow. So pretty impressive there last week for the lads. Let's go, though, and have a look at what maps we are playing today, Q, as it is different for the people at home. And well, we are starting on Storm Point into Olympus E-District, back into E-District, back into Olympus, then back into Storm Point, which means we have Storm Point POIs to go and look at before we get into game number 1.
Yeah, Storm Point starting up here first, and I think something to keep in mind throughout the course of the day as these graphics come up, since there are 3 map picks, where teams prioritize those maps is going to be relatively important. Now, I think we will see that the majority of our teams were kind of prioritizing Storm Point here, part of that being because of the snake draft order. Since we're starting here first, it means we will be going back to this map for games 6 and 7. Those 2 maps generally where we start to see teams crossing over that match point threshold and looking to try and cap the dub. But I think when we look here, I feel like at least a lot of our big hitters relatively spread out, which is going to make for some relatively interesting end games here for sure. But what will be kind of tough is for PXX coming out right next to Gen G, who we know likes to play edge. PXX more than likely going to be looking at early engagements with Gen G, especially if we do end up seeing more southern zones here on Storm Point.
Oh, we've talked as much as we can talk, Q, but it looks like we are in for game number 1 as we speak. Everyone's choosing their legends. It is nearly time to get in to do what we do, Q.
It is time to get down and do what it do. Ain't no better time than the present. Mentioned it. Ain't no more time to talk about it. It is indeed time to be about it. Keeping in mind, we didn't mention here, in case we have anybody who is found their way into the channel or one of our watch parties that's tuning in. Maybe you haven't watched a match point format. It's a little bit different than your typical format here. It's not just 6 games. Our teams are going to be racing to that 50-point threshold and then looking to take home a dub in order to be crowned a victor. But let's go ahead and get ready to drop on in. It's game number 1, baby.
Game number 1. Let's go and have a look where we are heading for our first game. And I mean, if it goes off the heat map, maybe we are getting a mountain lift straight up, which means good things for Dog Red here early on.
Dog Red, one of those teams that kind of snuck their way into the regional finals, had a relatively quiet day, and does actually look like pulling more towards RRQ down at Launchpad. Dog Red will still get some prio here, and also going to give priority to teams like VK Gaming, TYK, and even HABNW landing down at Echo HQ. That is going to be good news for teams like Gen G, who we mentioned earlier, generally like to play the edge. When it does go their direction, they counter rotate. So they'll be comfortable playing from where they're at here at Lightning Rod to be able to kind of start on that edge portion moving down south.
We did talk a lot about VK Gaming early on about what we reckon they might do today, Q. Well, they have a pretty good chance to go straight to zone here for game number 1. It'll be interesting to see how they play this here early on, knowing that they have a bit of knowledge.
Yeah, I feel like we always talk about in the region in the past, we've talked about how much teams like to fight, but we have talked a lot this season how it feels. We've seen a little bit of a change in the discipline. A lot of teams starting to adopt that more international play style, more rotate early, not taking stupid fights on the edge. So we are going to be seeing a lot of teams that are going to be moving double time over towards Launchpad. There is a chance that we may be seeing a couple of engagements up towards Stormcatcher potentially, but as far as for now, teams like S8UL and the rest of this lobby just going to start making their way down towards Launchpad.
It does look like Wolves Esports on the tail of S8UL, and it does look like teams are prioritizing zone here early on, Q, which means a lot of teams going to be trying to fight early for a position, and at the moment it looks like RRQ may be trying to hold off some teams who are trying to move in onto their POY as well.
Yeah, and the RRQ landed out here, so they got prio, but yeah, you mentioned with so many teams wanting to move in quickly, they'll want to be able to at least meet with a little bit of resistance here. Having in a tough spot, VK going to be able to at least find a couple of warning shots let off, and we did mention how much that crypto is going to be used at least early. Also interesting to see on top of that, we will see quite a bit of Axel, I would imagine, here in game 1, and then it will back down at least a little bit through games like 2 and 4, but at least early on, QQ rocking that Axel here for VK Gaming.
Yeah, I don't like the chances here of Havoc to stay alive, as there's only one man left standing. BKG going to move in thanks to Casa on the drone. And it does look like Havoc will be the first team eliminated here today. We did have an Axel ban early for game 1 yesterday. So Axel was banned game 1 of scrims yesterday. I did see in chat after that game, there was S8UL saying, how about 2 teams not play Axel? They were going to be one of the teams that wasn't going to play him, just so Crypto gets banned for game 1 today.
Bye, Crypto ban hoga.
We'll have to keep an eye on those picks here moving forward, but you definitely see a quite an increase, I would say, of Axels here in game number 1 compared to even just last week for our final match day. RRQ, we did mention, this is where they landed. Pricey's already been able to find their way up to that purple Evo, which is going to be good news for them. And we had also talked when they had been put together, kind of curious how the composition was going to work. It does seem that Strafing Flame has done a really good job of more adapting to that anchor style, which has allowed for Pricey and Easy Flash to be more your frag and re-entry sort of players here.
Team RRQ. As we can see, HABNW, they found their happy place at the moment. It looks like Team Wolves still watching teams try to rotate in at the moment, and that is S8UL. They might be in a little bit of trouble with this rotating as well.
This is tough too. I was going to say, yeah, Sharky has already stepped forward, but Sharky will be able to pull the rest of the team, obviously, with that Wraith. The question is do the Wolves opt for the portal as well to follow? It doesn't look like it. If S8UL will at least be able to now find a little bit of coverage within the rocks itself. Since they will be a little later down here towards Launchpad, they won't look to full send towards the actual buildings itself over there. Although there is space, they just don't know it.
S8UL
most of the time.
Gonna have to try and live where Havoc couldn't, and that's the problem. And you got so many good teams already in zone, VKG, RRQ, and then you have Wolves Esports on the backside. Kind of a recipe for disaster, I feel, for S8UL early on, but they are one of the best teams in our region, that is for sure. So I feel like they should be okay for now, as we are looking at TYK, who are down on the south side of zone as well, but they don't have too far to rotate in with this zone either.
TYK's been a fun team to watch adjust over the course of the split. I mean, a younger team that has come together, the young Thai squad, right? And just sneaking their way into regional finals in at the 19th spot. So if they want to find themselves off to Paris for EWC, realistically, Stoney, they're going to have to win today. What's been tough for them is finding themselves in top 10 scenarios. They're one of the lower teams percentages-wise. They're down like towards 40% of finding themselves in top 10s. However, they do a pretty solid job. If they get inside of top 10, about 2/3 of the times able to convert those into top 5s. It's just finding themselves in the top 10 itself has been a bit of a struggle for them.
Yeah, that was a good stat you brought up in the green room before we did start. So will be interesting today, because I feel like average placement Q comes into play in games like this, match point, where you need to be alive at the right time. And I feel like if teams are used to being alive around that top 5, top 6 mark, anything can happen from that point on. So with 19 squads left standing, we do have round 2 starting to close, and we can see a lot of teams trying to play that north side, but it is definitely pulling back towards Launchpad.
Yeah, look at the handful of teams up towards Stormcatcher, though, that are all going to have to rotate in. There's 4 squads that are going to have to fight amongst one another once they see each other up here, but then the late rotate from there to coming down towards actual Launchpad itself is going to be a bit tough. Of the teams up here, there is DCG, and I mean, who wouldn't love to see Roy back on land? They are also probably one of those squads, realistically, where you look with where they're sitting, 13th, would probably need at least a top 3, more than likely a top 2 to stand a chance.
Team Orchard, this was my pick to win today. I just feel like they have the right leader to lead them at the right time. We'll have to wait and see, though, how the boys go. Game 1. Closest team to them is Edward Gaming, who we're just talking about as well. But 19 squads doesn't look like much happening at the moment. But as I say that, Titan Esports Club may be getting a little bit of trouble here with Aram looking at them as well.
Now, only ring 2. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if even come ring 3 and 4, we're still sitting towards that 15, 16 team points. This is game number 1. You mentioned as far as teams wanting to make sure that they at least continue to get themselves a collective of a couple of points. Falling out before even getting a placement point is not the way that you want to start off your match point series here, especially for most of these teams in the lobby who are looking to be able to really use today to catapult themselves up into that top 8, or we'll even call it 9, because realistically VKG more than likely going to be included in that top 9, which are the 9 squads going off to EWC.
Texas China team hai na?
19 squads still standing. VK Gaming found themselves a home to call for now. Still looking at the team on the bridge. Kind of a tough position to be at the moment, but 19 squads, not much action unfolding, but as you can see, Wolves Esports getting into it. Looks like they were being aggressive to the team close by, and that is Rendang, who do have the shield advantage in this fight as well. So Rendang just needs to hold it down, but as I say that, Wolves Esports, probably another team you really don't want to be going up against right now early in game number 1.
Yeah, they might have the shield damage, but Wolves have the no-name damage. You know what I'm saying? Like, just able to open up the fight and get things started. Here's Crazy Kong with a quick 180 to help put another player down. And with that there, Rendang will be the second team eliminated from game number 1. That's also going to allow for the Wolves to get their first points on the board. And we always talk about for teams, especially your fighting teams, to be able to get that first fight under your belt, be able to feel like, hey, we're here to play. They're ready to get things started.
Yeah, Gen G move in and take Wolves' spot as well. So now Wolves not able to come back to where they were. Gen G taking control early on, which is a great play by Gen G, which now puts Wolves on the back foot a little bit after cleaning up that fight.
See if Gen G decides to make much of a push off to this team that's out in the distance, or does Asian just continue to try and poke and prod from a distance with a longbow? Can we get a shot, please? Find just one. You're so close to getting there. At least get the one on the board here. But the good news for Gen G is they will at least have control of these buildings, potentially catch any latecomers that are rotating their way on in. The bad news is the only team that was really in the vicinity is Wolves, who they seem to have pushed off towards the north. So at this point, more than likely going to look to find their way towards Launchpad. It could potentially find their way across S8UL, though, if they're doing so on foot.
It looks like Wolves Esports moving behind BCG at the moment. BCG, though, do understand that, did put the shot pressure back down on Wolves. But with 18 squads still standing, Q, round 3, 40 seconds away from closing. I feel like we're going to see a lot of teams starting to get eliminated moving forward.
Yeah, this is going to be, especially a couple of those squads that are sitting on the northern side, your BCGs, as well as those couple of teams up towards Stormcatchers, like an EDG, who actually I think just took to the sky the way the mini-map looks for me. So these teams will start making their way down south, walking fast, trying to see if they can find a spot. Anyway, Orchid here. Gonna look like they're finding themselves a quick fight. Nade's gonna come out across from a flow. Doesn't look like the Nade's quite gonna find it smart, but at least all 3 players for Orc is staying on their feet. Looks like Dogred on the other side.
Dogred now needing to hold it down. It does look like Yubi now also in some trouble, as it looks like BCG moving in on the backside. Yubi will get eliminated. So like I said, we're gonna see a lot of teams starting to get into some action. As this zone was starting to close, we can see as well Dogred trying to hold it down. It's a bit of Orchid versus Dogred action, and these two teams know each other very well, Q, with a Flow and Killerpods basically being the swap on both these teams.
These teams could really use a good start to their day. I know you were looking to hope to see Orchid get their start right. BCG in a little bit of trouble, as Walking L has already found themselves on the ground. The good news for them, BCG on the other side, also still left to a 2. They'll be able to use that Axle to be able to reposition and fall on back here. ARAM falling out into the top right-hand corner of your screen. The problem is DCG, as they do look to rotate on in. They've got a team right in front of them, and now getting EMP'd as well.
Yeah, this is so hard. Edward Damon overlooking the boys at the moment. The Sealer coming out. 14 squads now left standing. BCG get eliminated. DCG, I think, getting eliminated as well. And all of a sudden, action starting to unfold everywhere. We can see Titan Esports Club falling from the height. They move into the Caustic Gaster. Triple take Shoddy in the hand. Chongbei now needing to try and stay alive, and they get rid of Wolves Esports at 14th position.
Wolves going out early is definitely a surprise. Big shout out to Titan Esports Club for being able to pull that one off. Gen G, I think, has a squad that has at least pulled up towards them after they were the ones who had knocked out BCG. Looking to try and at least these drones here from the crypto, man. Can't wait till we get that bad boy removed from the lobby. S8UL, they'll also have quite a bit of a rotate. They're on the similar side of the zone from Gen G. They're separated by that big mountain, but it's still a far pull to the east to go.
And it is Dogred now as well, looking to still try and coexist here with Orchid. Well, this is where it gets a little bit interesting, because it does pull up towards these houses, Q, which means a lot of teams down the bottom of Launchpad are going to get in, make rotating in a little bit more difficult.
All the teams that thought they had a good position on the backside of Launchpad, you gotta feel bad for them because, yeah, they're all gonna have to move up towards that northeast just a little bit. And this round gonna start closing here in just a moment. I guess at least good news for a couple of teams. I think Titan Esports Club were able to just get a scan before taking off, so that helps a little bit. But now for these other squads that are on the edge, the teams like Gen G, you don't have much to help as far as on the rotate other than the quick pull of the axle. They'll hit that and try and see if they can find a way on in. The problem, they'll have both EDG and VKG looking their way.
RQ now, their hands full as they need to rotate in as well. Victory Esports are holding out a fair few teams, and we're going to see a lot of teams maybe struggle with this rotate in here as we see Victory Esports waiting to see what's going to happen. VC does move back. It is TYK trying to be aggressive here, but Gen G Esports also getting eliminated here early on by the looks of VKG.
Yeah, they were jumped by both VKG and EDG off on that edge. You had mentioned Victory Esports, though, still doing a good job as far as on their positioning on their side of the zone. VKG has one player down. It's EDG that's knocking on their doorstep. But Edward Gaming, unfortunately, has been met by a little bit of resistance. I believe that's Titan Esports Club that is sending some of their shots across the way that has slowed them down. S8UL will have to find a way to at least pull up towards this northeastern side. They have a decision, though. Do we decide to third party this EDG and VKG fight, or do we actually prioritize our rotation towards zone?
Wait to see. 8 squads now left standing. A lot of teams trying to find their way into zone. VK Gaming need to be careful. Team on their height as well. But with 8 squads left, I don't feel like it's going to be too hard for a team like VKG to get into this final zone.
But they can make shake. The good news is you'll have the crypto to be able to at least scan a little bit early. It should help lead the charge as well. Once you have that the EMP ready, I think I had taken a quick peek towards the bottom. I believe it should be available as well. But you mentioned they do have EDG right next to them. When they do start moving, they will have other squads that will be looking their way. Teams like TXX. And here's the fight just outside of the building. QQ will fall. Gas is up on the high ground. And the last one left alive for VKG. Trying to at least find an elimination, find a shield swap. Will be unsuccessful in that regards.
Brad gets tricky for teams that are on this outside. Edward Gaming down to a solo. VKG also down and out. So VKG now have game 2 to try and get some points back. PXX still alive as well. Just in zone at the moment. S8UL, where are they? As they look to be moving in also. But a lot of teams trying to find their way in zone number 6.
Yeah, S8UL gets like the benefit, the fact that almost everybody else is piling towards these buildings, so probably paying attention to one another, might be able to kind of wait for the rest of these 6 other squads to eliminate one another, but it will be PXX who is going to look to try and play into the high ground itself. They find that solo that's left alive with EDG, and oh my goodness gracious, beaming to be able to at least open it up as they ascend up into the high ground, but they get stopped on the second floor.
It's S8UL moving in, trying to find Godspot at the moment for themselves. 5 squads left standing. Dog Red left standing. Only 5 teams left right now to make some noise. Titan Esports Club trying to hold the height, but as we can see, they're going to go down just not quick enough with that bubble. But now they have to wait and see how we go. Dog Red now trying to move in. Also, S8UL still alive and looking well, but as a duel.
Tell you, man, I would love to see Dog Red find a way to pull out the dub here with that experience, to be able to see them on land. I feel like would bring a lot of experience for APAC South off to EWC. They will now look to play from the high ground. The problem, FIFA's already lost all of their shield. They got to be able to make sure that they can get a quick reset, because they do have that priority position, and for them, it should feel like just shooting fish in a barrel.
Dog Red on high, ultimate high as well, which should work in their favor with the caustic and the gas. Team underneath them, you can see some shots starting to come on. Kilo just needs to be a little bit careful here with 4 squads to go.
That's Victory Esports that was looking to climb up just over the rocks. The question is, does Dogred look to send them up? There's at least one knock they'll be able to find. You got the breach charge as well to be able to continue to send damage their way. Titan Esports Club was a solo that has been found, and they'll also be taken out.
Orchid now still alive for now. They do have a team on their backside. They're going to have to be careful. They're trying to be aggressive to the boys Dogred, but for now they're going to have to try and just stay alive and play it slow. This push in, it's Dogreds to lose.
Orchid could be the beneficiary of the fact that you do see Dogred take this fight with Victory Esports, preventing them from trying to ascend. If that fight opens up first, then maybe, just maybe, Orchid on the second floor can find a way to retake up on the height and turn this fight around. Instead, it will be Dogred who looks to push the second floor. They'll look to take out Team Orchid. They'll look to play for a second. Victory Esports should have an easy 3v1 to wipe this up.
This is where Victory Esports take game number 1, and they play that well. And I do like that there by Dogred to play for second, as they knew dropping down in that circumstance was going to be a little bit impossible with the amount of teams left standing.
Like I was just saying, right, if you push down to Victory Esports, you allow Orchid to be the third party, and for Dogred, you could go out third, and all of a sudden it's all for naught. So I love to play the play for second. Does it give Victory Esports a relatively simple cleanup? Yeah, but you still pick up the 3 extra placement points, and those are going to be huge. This is match point format. After all, it's all about racing to 50 before worrying about picking up that dub.
Yeah, game number 1 over with now, and we'll go and have a look at that as we speak. But yes, a very good start by Victory Esports to get themselves on the board, and that is a 6-kill win for game number 1.
That's a solid finish. You know, we saw Victory Esports able to kind of play low and slow towards the end, but it was just about making sure they were playing for the right spot on the map. You know, sometimes we'll see teams overextend in those later games, worried about, you know, fighting for a third or fighting for a fourth or fighting for a second. They were like, hey, you know what? We'll just continue to play out of sight, out of mind. I mean, what is that combined? Just over 2,000 damage as a team. You know, you get it done however way you need to.
Go and have a look at the match summary and the series overall, and Victory Esports getting 18 points for game number 1. Dogred 15, Orchard 3rd, Titan Esports 4th, and S8UL rounding out our top 5. We'll go and have a look at the series overall, and well, Victory Esports, they're leading the way at the moment after the first, with Dogred 2nd, S8UL 3rd, Titan Esports Club 4th, and Edward Gaming rounding out our top 5. I guess all that leads us to know now is which legend is getting banned for game number 2.
Let's see it. Was it the Axel or the Crypto? And it does look like the Crypto. A couple of extra picks, so no more EMPs moving forward. Now, Stoney, the question becomes, we saw Axel be that second most picked legend in map number 1 in our last match, or I think both of our last match days. Still ended up making its way pretty well till the end until they got banned. We'll have to see how long they make it here today.
Yeah, I think when she doesn't get banned game 1, she lasts around till game 6, game 7. So, you got me. I know you got me. Yep. But that is when she actually does last too. So it'll be interesting to see how long she does last for tonight. But game number 1 is going to be a Crypto ban. And well, that is a good start for Victory Esports on Stormpoint.
Couldn't have asked for much more, really, for Victory Esports. A team that came into the day technically just outside the bubble. They were sitting in 10th place with 68 points. And they're a team that, I mean, they make half of their games in the top 5. They make about half of those, or sorry, half of their games in the top 10. About half of those they can convert into top 5. They've been a relatively consistent team. If you ask me, it's just felt like they've been missing a little bit of that extra bite when it comes to their fight. And I think that even shows with just the 6 KP with the win in a region where we generally see our teams that come out on top in that double-digit plus.
It does look like we are heading to Olympus next for game number 2. And as we can see, well, this is their drop spots here for game 2. Is there anything you're looking at here with these POIs?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be on the western or on the eastern side of this map. My goodness gracious, Gen G, S8UL, PXX. Although I guess you can't really say that it's much better over on that western side, I suppose. But no, honestly, I think when you talk about the map itself, I don't know if there's anything in particular that I am looking for. I think one thing that does stand out to me when you're just looking at the picks, feels like not a lot of. It feels like this is probably the map where we saw have the least consistency. Some people prioritizing it as their third map. We have, I don't think anybody prioritizing it as their first. It seems like it's kind of just a consistent, like, and we'll get a POI when we get there sort of map is the thing that stands out to me.
Yeah, I do like where the boys are sitting for Victory Esports in the middle of Olympus here. I feel like it's probably a good time for us to go and have a look at the heat map for regional for the overall, as we have had on these POIs, and see exactly where it is most likely being going for Olympus. And as we know, we have had a lot of rift zones, but it does seem like that south side of zone seems to be pretty heavy for end zones.
Yeah, I think Rift, as much as we have that bright spot up there in the northern, I feel like that was a lot of the first half of the split. We've seen a decent fair share in that kind of southern side, and especially in particular that southeastern quadrant here. So those teams that do land over on that side, we're looking, at teams like Gen G, ARAM, or especially all the way down south VKG where they're at on Bonsai. It was at Bonsai where we've had quite a fair share of end games as well. Some particular teams that might be a benefit of some end zones here.
Have to wait and see, as game number 2 does look like everyone is starting to get in to this next match, which is over at Olympus. Well, Q, everyone is in the game and we're ready to get in to some more game 2 action. But so far so good for our first game. A lot of teams that we knew to be in the top 5 would be in that top 5, but S8UL, want to talk about them. They had 9 kills before they went out. They look scary already pretty early in game 1.
Bro,
yeah, they're a team that I feel like when you look at of the top 5 has been consistently consistent. I believe S8UL technically has the best place or average placement throughout the course of all of the match days and all of the maps. So when you do talk about, especially today, we see all of the maps, they should definitely be feeling confident, especially with the type of start that they have had here. So definitely not surprised to see them collecting up those points, which means if they get into late game and keep that sort of pace, watch out. But you mentioned we got everybody here in the server, Stoney, and well, I think it's time for us to get ready to take to the skies. It's time for map number 2. It's Olympus, our one map that I feel like, if any, on the day, we may be seeing be a little bit faster of a pace. I know we mentioned earlier it is regional finals, which generally tends to slow things down, but I feel like we've heard it from not only us here on the mainstream, but also from a lot of our watch partiers throughout the course of the split, which, by the way, big shout out to you guys. Just the difference that Olympus has, the feel of it compared to E-District and Stormpoint.
Yeah, I mean, Olympus for us has been pretty good, I feel. Our quality hasn't been that crazy. I mean, we do have the zones have probably helped us a lot with the good gameplay for Olympus. I feel like we have more Rift and Bonsai zones, which means we have a lot more playable spots for teams to be able to rotate in early to. But for this zone here, it kind of scares me, Q, because I feel like you really only have maybe the open if it pulls out to here to play, and there's not much else other than that, unless you're in Gardens or that Elysium spot.
Yeah, I feel like probably pulling to just those buildings that are like just to the west of Elysium more than likely, so which means teams like PXX, or even we were just talking about them, S8UL, a team that was able to pick up a fair share of KP in that last game before they went out. Now they are going to have Prio on their rotation on in, so going to be definitely intrigued to see how that trio of Sharky, Legacy, and Jesco be able to do with this zone heading on in. But in similar fashion to like we saw in game number 1 and like we will see through a majority of our games here today, a lot of teams moving on that double time. It's like S8UL, same thoughts that I had. These couple of buildings just to the west, and they're going to play that building on the far most northern side on the also elevation, and I really like that spot here.
And it looks like Victory Esports also with the same idea as well. And well, winning game number 1 would give them
more
a fair bit of confidence heading into this game as well, Q, with holding zone and getting a win. We'll have to wait and see though, as TYK look like they might be moving in towards the same spot as well, and Victory Esports holding it down pretty well at the moment.
Well, this is going to be interesting. You mentioned how there's not too much playable position. So while, yes, you have teams that are going to be rotating early, they're going to be fighting for those priority positions, especially these few buildings that are just outside of Elysium here. Havoc Zoyo has already fallen, and that's a tough player to lose. Like, at least the good news for you is the rotation part of your game is already done if they happen to fall here, because the Valk a tough player, but at least you still have your I guess your fortified sort of legends to be able to hunker down.
That's tough for Havoc. Havoc early rotate 2 games in a row into where they think zone's going to be, and they have died pretty early for it in game 1. And it looks like they are going to be as a duo here for game 2, doing the exact same thing that they did in game 1. But for now, they should be okay for the meanwhile.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious how far out that box is, because of course with the changes you do have the ability to have that death box recovery, so you don't necessarily need to find you know, a respawn beacon or have a Moby in your pocket, but it does look like it is out in the open at least a little bit, and we do know that it's outside of this building and on the lower floor as well. So yeah, more than likely going to have to play the remainder of this as the duo. Again, at least you do have the Watson still alive, so you can hunker down the doorways with those fences. You have the pylon to hold off against ordinances. However, if you have teams that just pull up and say knock knock and bust the door down in a 3v2, you are at the man disadvantage, so that's the tough news.
Yeah, TYK, they're a team that will move in on a situation like this. If they know there's a duo underneath them, they will try and capitalize on some free KP. But all the rest of the teams around them, they're probably waiting for a team like TYK to do that, to maybe move in on a better spot.
Damage.
Majority of these teams, I shouldn't say a majority, but a good fair share of the lobby, maybe a little bit more than half, already have finding them ways to either to gardens or north of that. I have a couple of teams that will be looking to take those pop shots, trying to find a way to upgrade those Evos. But it does seem like, at least for now, more than likely these teams that are in this quadrant of the map are going to be all right with at least sharing some of the real estate. AJBNW, a team that I feel like has been relatively quiet on the back end of the split. I'm trying to remember as far as where they were at heading into today. A team that not necessarily like, what's the best way to put it? I feel like we haven't necessarily seen their potential, but we've seen flashes of it. And I feel like a team that would require a win to be able to move into EWC. I wouldn't be surprised if they somehow turn some heads and at least build some momentum for Split 2 today.
I feel like they've only really been together since the break that we've had, but since that break, they have won 2 games in a split. So they did win the back-to-back games that we had. I'm pretty sure that was both on E District. So, you know, for HABNW, we do play back-to-back ED games after this. So it's something that they're comfortable on is that map. As we can see, RRQ, another team that made a change in the mid-season break, and well, they have Easy Flash on their team. And the way you say it is, it's strafing.
It's strafing Flame and the X's, baby. Even the coach used to play with me at one point in time. I do gotta say though, I've really enjoyed seeing how they have come together. I was kind of worried about, you know, when you play with so many players you've played with before in a team, or a player, I should say, I feel like we've seen the ups and downs when it's come to the vibe. I have always kind of worried that if they come to a match point day and the vibes aren't high, could it fall apart quick? We haven't seen that yet. It seems like they've kind of hit their groove since coming together.
S8UL now, though, moving in on TYK. They do get one down on RYV, and it was Legacy being aggressive here in game number 2, but it will slow down just a little bit. We may as well go and have a look at this zone and see if everyone has it right as well.
For the most part, it does look like a majority of those buildings should still be in the zone. Maybe, what, as far as at least EDG will have to move a little bit, but even for them, they won't have to move too far. So for majority of these squads that are on that at least northeastern portion of the zone, they'll be all right. Wolves Esports, they did go out relatively early. Of course, we say that for them, middle of the pack, because for some teams, you know, they'll take that on a bad game. But for this team, going out relatively early in game number 1, we'll see if they can put things together in game 2.
Here we go, Aram now moving in. Beautiful shots coming out. Edward Gaiman now in a little bit of trouble. They're going to swing the corner. Both with napkin jerseys, by the way. As we can see, they're moving in. Aram trying to clean it up. They will get rid of Edward Gaming. That's our first team eliminated. But here comes Gen G for the third party. As Ziki does get the first down on Yo after. And they know now that there's only one man left standing.
This is one of those teams that has made the shift. We had seen them running Axel before, but we had mentioned during the pre-show how, especially in this region, we've seen an influx in the Valkyrie. Dexter currently rocking that here. They will be trying to continue to hunt down the remaining players that are left here from Aram, as Chizu, actually the last one that is left, taking those shots, trying to see if they can do the best job that they can with the Serpentine. Duck, dip, dive, and dodge, and get out of dodge here. But unfortunately, when Dexter takes to the sky, that will give him that little bit of information. And unfortunately, at this point, it's just a matter of time before they fall.
They're pretty scary dude to land on you, that's for sure. But he does get put down. So Aram getting eliminated after getting some early kills. And it does look like Wolves Esports, the closest team to them at the moment. We'll go and have a look. We have a lot of other action starting to unfold as TYK, they have their hands full, but S8UL looking to join the party as well.
Let's check that place out. 5, 6 squads that are all up within these couple of buildings right up over here. Rendang being one of them. Nice job to be able to help take them down. And VKG, they're up on out of here. And that's going to be a huge start to game number 2 for a team in Rendang who went out early in game 1.
BCG now getting into it with RRQ. Easy Flash does get eliminated. Walking L getting some KP. The last one left standing is Pricey. And we may see RRQ and VKG be getting eliminated at 18th and 17th position.
Keep in mind that if the only way you pick up any points going out this early is if you had managed to pick up any KP, because you don't start earning those placement points until 15. BCG will be able to make their way just inside of this zone. Mama Clubs on the opposite side. Looks like they are taking some pop shots. It will be some arc stars sent across the way with some nades, but it doesn't seem like any of them are landing.
Not right now. As we can see, TYK still standing. Havoc as a duo might be in a little bit of trouble. Rendang still trying to stay alive as well. As we can see though now, Wolves Esports trying to also hold off the push from Mama Clubs, where Mama Clubs have the shield advantage, but I think Wolves have the name advantage.
They'll look to go ahead and send off the back of that Axel. It's going to be a wide swing. Hold on though, No Name's the first to fall. Crazy Kong goes down next, and it's all going to be left to win. The wrecking ball going to be sent out in hand, and that's just filthy. When built different.
Oh my god, I forgot. As soon as you said No Name was the first one down, I said who is left standing, and that is When. Scary dude. Still standing, but with Gen G Esports still very close by, I don't like Wolves' chances to stay alive right now.
Definitely not a team that you want to see pulling up, that's for sure. Wolves Esports has at least been able to get No Name back up onto their feet though, and now might also able to get Crazy Kong standing as well. Gen G has actually already started rotating, so that's going to give Wolves the freedom to not only be able to get on their feet, they'll be able to rotate as well as get reset. They'll separate from Gen G, and that means they'll be moving more towards the southern side of the zone. BCG also trying to find their way, and RRQ, you had mentioned, still left as a solo in Easy Flash. Their previous team, Ubi, just inside the zone.
BCG do get eliminated. It looks like RRQ will have to try and stay alive as a solo for now. DCG though, moving in on Wolves, and Wolves Esports will get eliminated with that rotate in. So Wolves out at 16. That is a lot of big names out early.
Good news for some of these teams who are looking for a big day. We had mentioned HABNW being one, basically requiring a Dabaruski. If they're going to want to find themselves off to Paris. At least for now, they've got themselves 2 purple shields and a blue. Last time we had sat on board with Gen G, they were looking for the third party, and then they backed down to it. Now they find themselves on the far western side of the zone, and they've got a bunch of teams between where they are and where they need to go.
13 squads exactly, Q. So there's a lot of teams still left alive. Rendang now look like they're trying to be aggressive to Havoc. As Havoc now trying to hold it down, but Rendang looking to try and move back. But they will go down to PXX on the outside as well.
CG currently short of player. Lilsan going to see if they can get themselves a little bit of that help back while they're still taking shots from across the way. I believe that's Gen G who is sending some shots in their direction. PXX here trying to hold off players that are moving in towards their direction. 174 going to be able to pop out the R99 and put one down. But are they going to be able to keep themselves standing is the question.
XT still standing. He can hear the man trying to heal on the outside. He needs to be careful. It's going to be a 2v2 fight here though. Refrain knows that there's a dude on the roof. He's going to move in, be aggressive. Does get it cracked. Needs to be careful, but they're in a pretty good spot if they can clean this up, Q, here in game number 2.
The problem though is you got a lot of teams that are going to start moving this direction. So do you either finish up the wipe, or do you try and reset for Titan Esports Club? You don't even get to answer that question before you're taken out by HABNW. Havoc going to be down to a solo. Rendang also left to a single player. Do they find themselves at least a safe spot to be able to tuck behind a wall and play out of sight and out of mind? We're finally into our top 10 here in game number 2.
TYK alive for now. Havoc still standing as well. I don't like his chance for much longer as Dogrent will clean them up as well. Guess who else is still standing? That is Gen G finding their way into zone as well. And well, S8UL, they're looking to try and clean up Gen G also. R9 in the hand. Jesco gets a beautiful crack, but they do swing the corner. Beautiful shots coming out from Legacy as well, but Gen G on the front foot at the moment, but Sharky does get one down back, which will give S8UL a chance to reset.
Yeah, did they maybe overextend is the question. No, S8UL will be able to get Jesco back up onto their feet. You have that pylon to be able to avoid any ordinances getting sent their way as they do get a quick reset here as well. It will be Sharky who looks to ascend up over the wall. A couple of pop shots sent, but not much until the teammates of Legacy and Jesco look to join the party. But it looks like maybe a third pulling up, and because of that, they'll disengage, which means Gen G gets some safety for themselves to reset.
HABNW in a pretty good spot here as well, Q. I haven't seen a zone ever, I don't think, pull up on top of where these teams are. So everyone that is below needs to hurry up and get themselves up. Oh, with the amount of Valkyries out here still, Q, I feel like we might see a lot of teams still try and find their way up.
So the ability to be able to locate on in, and of course, you know, with the Valkyrie, as long as you have a high enough Evo, you can get the lay of the land as well when you fly on in and see if there's any sort of real estate to be able to land into. And with most of these teams rocking the Watts on top, there's a chance when you land that pylon to help you out. Gomgap gonna be the last one left alive here for Dog Red. Can you find an Evo swap? No, it's not gonna be in time. It will be Ubi who falls, and then Dog Red, DCG trying to see if they can get back to a full 3. Meanwhile, S8UL to be able to utilize this high ground here as we move towards top 5.
I do like where these guys have set up. This is a perfect spot. They can hold it down. They do have the Watson fences as well. And they will be able to see teams on both sides of the ring here. As we see S8UL clean up Team YK, and we now have 5 squads left alive.
Differently interesting, Victory Esports is one of those 5 squads currently left, and they are actually under that team S8UL that you were just talking about. They'll be able to use that little like ceiling that they're sitting on as extra coverage. PXX, they're sending some shots across towards Gen G. Gen G, I think, probably in the toughest position of the 5 teams left.
But Victory Esports
still alive, and as you said, Gen G, one of those teams still out here. So if you had an S8UL or Gen G pick for your regional finals, you're doing pretty well out here today. I tell you what, a lot of people didn't choose, and that's Victory Esports, who already have 5 kills in this game. They did win game number 1 as well, Q, so they're looking pretty good here early on.
Getting some damage off the Sky Nades. Is that going to be enough of an opening to feel comfortable pushing up here? You can see the evac tower about to be called in. They're trying to call it as close to this roof as possible. Now going to get popped. The question is, does it get shot down before you can fully ascend? It doesn't look like anyone's prioritizing at least getting it knocked down, but they are making sure that they're looking that way, which makes it getting to a little bit tougher for Victory Esports here.
They do have the Valkyrie ult as well, so they will most likely just have that jump tower up to maybe throw them all off. As we can see, the Valkyrie ult comes out to play, and now they need to figure out where they want to play. And well, they know there's one team they could fight on the outside, or they have to fight Gen G on the inside. Either way, I really don't like their chances to stay alive. And down goes 2, as it looks like PXX are gonna get some KP. Victory Esports get eliminated. We are now down to our final 4 squads: PXX, HAB, and W. Gen G and S8UL. Tasting blood, trying to find some blood for themselves. S8UL to get rid of Gen G. PXX now going to be getting eliminated. This is an S8UL victory for game number 2, and they look good out here today. This could be an S8UL victory very easily here in a second, as they just have to wait for this zone to do the work.
You can see they're sending out those thermites and stuff towards the doorway. Storm helping them as well, and that's too easy for S8UL, a team that has consistently been able to put points up onto the board as far as both placement and KP. And after game number 2, they are already 60% of the way there to match points. That's crazy.
Insane second game for S8UL. Do you know what as well though? For S8UL, they could have won game number 1. They played really well in that game. They just obviously lost the height to Dog Red, but they do take game number 2 here as a pretty good victory. We're going to have a look at the match summary, and it is going to be an S8UL 20-point game. HAB and W get second, PXX third, Gen G fourth, and Victory Esports round out our top 5. We're going to have a look at our series overall, Q, and well, it's going to be S8UL leading the way with 33 points. Victory Esports sitting second, Dog Red third, PXX fourth, and HAB and W rounding out our top 5. I guess that all leaves us now. Which legend is getting banned moving forward?
Let me see it. Show me potato salad. It's going to be the Mad Maggie. Can't say we're too surprised about that one. We mentioned we've seen a lot of players over the course of the split through all the regions popping off for some record-breaking matches off of the back of that Mad Maggie. That drill really allows for people to be a nuisance. So not surprised to be seeing that taken off of the board here second. And now the question becomes, what changes as we switch maps yet again? Because it is different today. Usually over a traditional match day, you have 3 and 3. We're switching maps every map except for, of course, that snake draft. So that 4th and 7th map, essentially, right? Because you go back and forth. So we're about to go into that back-to-back here for the E District. Something tells me more than likely between these next 2 games, we'll probably see an alter taken off the board, but hey, still who knows?
Yeah, a lot of time still to be. As we can see though, we'll go and have a look at the E District POI's queue, because that is where we're heading next here for game number 3 and 4.
Okay.
And as we know, we've had a fair few City Hall zones, and guess who has drafted City Hall here for regional finals?
City Hall for regional finals. Why can't I find it on my list here? You got me searching all last second. S8UL, there it is, on the top of the list. I always start from the bottom. That's on me. Yeah, S8UL has that one there. Whenever it feels like it goes up towards that northwestern quadrant, definitely ends up towards that direction. We have seen a decent fair share bit, I do feel like, is when it comes to E District though as well. But up towards that like Electro Dam area for teams like EDG, BCG, and Havoc might be a good end game as well.
Yeah, and I mean, we've had a fair few lately switch up and they go to Neon Square or they go to Lotus here for our weekend. So we'll go and have a look at the heat map though and see if they have the outside kind of endings as well as does Olympus, where it seems like Storm Point seems like the finishes are a lot more center of zone. And as we can see, it does look like there is a lot more kind of on the outskirts finishes here on E District as it is on Olympus.
Yeah, and a fair share bit over, if it's not Electro Dam, more towards the opposite side, right? More towards the western side of the zone. I would even say I would call it more southern, although obviously when you do look at City Hall, we've had a decent amount end in that direction. So will be intriguing to see as far as what direction we go here. But we did mention again, we will have E District on the back-to-back here. So both for matches 3 and 4. And we've talked about it a lot over the course of the season. E District has been one of those maps because of a lot of the POIs. Have a lot of buildings and stuff. They lead to really cluttered end games. So it should be fun over the next 2.
It should, and it does look like Uptown is the most successful drop spot here for ED, which is interesting to say the least.
It is worth noting, I believe it was Electro Dam was a close second. We're talking 2 wins, average placement of like, well, I guess the average placement was 11, but the average points was only like 2 points behind. So, I mean, close, but yeah, Uptown with where they're at. And it makes sense, right? I mean, Uptown's still a decent POI as far as rotating out of relatively quick. So, we'll keep an eye as far as who ends up coming out on top in these next 2. For Uptown, keep in mind, that is Victory Esports, who currently sit in second. And we did mention earlier a team that came into today just outside the bubble. They're currently in that top 3, and with those influx of points due to it being regional finals, it'd be enough to help lift them off to Paris.
It could. Unfortunately for them, it seems like Gen G and S8UL have started to wake up a little bit here, and it is early in these games as well. We have seen S8UL in a match point format, and that was that battle of APAC Q, and they had a lot of chances to win that tournament, as did, I'd say, Zeta Division probably had the most. But it seems like S8UL just know how to get themselves in that end zone at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of the reason that we have seen them have, like the best consistent placements as far as over the course of the season just has to do with the experience of this team. I mean, when you look at, any of the players, Sharky, Legacy, Jessica, you could talk about them individually and their experience, but when you put them together, I mean, there's a reason that they were threatening to be world champions just a couple of months ago at Sapporo. So surely that sits in the back of their mind. They would like to, obviously finish with a dub here in regional finals, but also that would give them a chance to, solidify a better spot for POI drafts and such during the group stage phase off in EWC. But it does look like we have talked about it enough. It's time to take to the skies here for game number 3, and at least early looks at the zone does look like we're off towards the western side. The question becomes, do we go up towards City Hall, where S8UL could very well use that type of a zone to put themselves up on a match point? Or does maybe Gen G get hooked up and we move more towards that southern side of the West?
Have to wait and see. I do maybe feel like, no, it is definitely going to be a City Hall zone. So as I did say before, we do love City Hall zones in APAC South. And I said, who has drafted City Hall Q? And well, S8UL have taken the God spot here already in game number 1. This is massive for this team because they are very, very smart when it comes to where to play early on to be in a good position for later on. And the fact that they don't have to move very far here, Q, gives them a lot of time now to get more loot, more just everything to be ready to sit in one spot for a fair while.
Does mean teams like Wolves Esports, who have had a relatively quiet day, currently sitting in 13th, also won't have to rotate too far. Maybe there's a chance at game number 3, what Wolves Esports needs to turn their day around. Also, Dog Red will be able to get priority as well on their rotate, landing down at Resort. Keeping in mind, we did mention for Dog Red at the top of the day, probably need a win. I was trying to do the math earlier. I think if they were to finish second, they would need a lot of the lobby to end up in the bottom of the bottom half in the right way for them to land. So they're more than likely needing a dub. They also could potentially have a big game here as well.
I really don't like this bridge to play too early. I feel like when there's 20 squads left standing still, I feel like this is a real tough spot to hold. Yes, you have a Watson, but I feel like we have seen S8UL die a lot of times here on this bridge. And it's not because they can't hold it, it's just because the amount of teams that have still yet to come in to zone. S8UL, though, they are just going to have to try and hold it down for now, as Wolves Esports are the closest team to them.
Level 3. Couple of teams already starting to rotate their way on in. I'm starting to get a quick count. That's 8 of them that are already here in City Hall itself, with a couple of teams just on the outskirts starting to make their way over as well. We did mention before we headed off to E-District here that quite a few of these POIs give a lot of real estate over to teams, meaning for quite packed end games, and the City Hall is one of them. So while we will see teams taking those pop shots at one another, even taking some purposeful downs to be able to upgrade those Evos, don't be surprised if when we get to rounds 3 and 4, we're still sitting at like 17, 18 squads.
So S8UL already getting some KP. 2 down on Titan Esports Club. Refrain and Zio both being eliminated. Wolves Esports helping the situation as well, but S8UL getting the KP for them early here. Q already on the board.
Couple more points for S8UL. We mentioned for them already looking good on the day. And we did mention the first kind of checkbox that you need to tick off on a match point finals is getting up to that 50 points. Whether you win a game or not before that, it is irrelevant. What you need to do when it comes to picking up that dub is after that 50-point threshold. At S8UL, they only need 15 points and they're already there. It's only game number 3, Stone.
It's crazy, to be honest, because if they just go nuclear this game, well, they really don't need to be that crazy, do they? They need a 15, 17 points, so
yeah,
5 kills and a win.
A couple KP.
Or you know, it's like if they can do it, which is scary for the rest of the lobby, because this team, once they get to match point, know how to win games. Q. Realistically, game 4 could be over if S8UL gets to match point.
Yeah, I was trying to think too. I mean, nobody else really threatening towards that match point either, right? Like the closest to them would be Victory Esports, and they're only halfway there. Granted, they're living on a little bit more than a prayer because they don't even necessarily need a first place in order to clutch for EWC. They're gonna like where they're at, but if anything, I would say for Victory Esports sitting in second, they might turn into S8UL's biggest fans here, because the quicker S8UL wrap things up, they secure that second place, those extra points, that helps send them off to Paris.
Optics here.
We love DCG trying to find their way into zone. VK Gaming, the closest team to them. And just so everyone knows, VK Gaming have already cemented their spot to EWC Paris. And what happens today if VK Gaming win match point? Well, the top 8 overall in the leaders, in the standing, will go to EWC. That means we get to take 9 for split 1 playoffs.
I do like the fact that VKG still sits inside that top 9. You know what I mean? It would be a little unfortunate if they like kind of fumbled throughout split number 1 and that meant only like the top 8 teams as opposed to the top 9 go. I feel like when you look at least for sure, the teams that you know that are going thus far, going to be sending some good representation for APAC South. But man, it's going to be a dogfight here over the course of these next couple of games to figure out those last couple of squads. So I definitely do not envy any of these teams that currently sit in that like 7 to like 12 region, because they're all fighting for, I would even say back to like 13, 14 spot. They're all fighting for only 3 spots.
Go and have a look at the map and see where we are heading. And well, S8UL maybe not reading this zone as well as I thought they were going to, as they're going to be on the outside of this zone when it does close here in round number 2, as HAPNW and VK Gaming have found themselves in a pretty good spot here for the 3rd game.
Yeah, they've got some good spots. I think the one thing that's going to be really unfortunate for Wolves, you were just talking about, when they do end up rotating in, the first team that they're going to have to get past is S8UL. That's definitely not a team that's going to make a rotate on in easy. And we do see they've blocked down at least this little cart that they're currently sitting on in. I think they are technically keeping an eye on more of the teams for Central, so that does mean technically not looking out towards Wolves. But Wolves here will eventually need to be moving here as well. It's talking about just about 40 seconds. Or sorry, 40 seconds and then the following ring. My bad.
Yeah. So they got a while for now, as we can see. S8UL as well, just relaxing. But we do have 20 squads still standing. What an esports club. They did go down to a solo, but it does look like they have been able to fully reset on the northern side of zone. And well, unfortunately for them, that zone does pull way back south compared to where they are at the moment. And I feel like we used to go off if this zone is touching the northern side, usually it keeps pulling towards that north side, but it does look like it is maybe just not touching that little bit, which means usually a pull back for zones. But very interesting zone here once again. Well, interesting zone pull, sorry, once again here for the boys in APAC South.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I feel like if any ring has been the most clever of rings, Ring 3 has been the one that has been throwing those most curveballs, even when they are touching for that second. So it has made it a little bit more of a challenge for IGLs. And I think because of that little extra hitch when it comes to calling some of the end zones, are the reasons we have seen, I guess you can see part of the reason, I would say, that we've seen that at the top of the league start to close. Obviously, part of that too, a lot of talent within APAC South itself. Hold on a second, how might be in a tough spot here for HABNW. Did you potentially overextend? Does look like they will be able to get back to safety just in the nick of time.
You really don't need your Newcastle going out this early on. PXX, pretty close by as well. So it does seem like the Gibby picks are starting to come out a bit more here as well, Q.
Yeah, generally once you see the Maggie off the board is where we do see that Gibby pick more, and then generally within those first couple of games is where the Gibby does end up getting banned. I feel like we've seen most of the POVs that we have flipped over to have the big boy within their composition. Also seen a fair share of Watsons though as well, so we'll definitely be keeping an eye on that moving forward. We did mention as far as for in this second, third ring here, as we do still have 20 teams left alive. We'll have these squads just simply trying to poke and prod at one another, upgrade those evos. We can even see for PXX, I mean, a couple of players still sitting on those blue. You like to get up to the purple. One, obviously more shield. Two, obviously, or sorry, maybe not as obviously, is that option of the perk as well.
Closest team to them is Rendang, and at the moment we haven't still had much action up our sleeves. As we can see, that zone does pull back towards Gen G, and that is huge here in game number 3. VK Gaming now needing to try and figure out what they're going to do here, if they're going to push HABNW or try and play it safe and coexist in the same building.
I just realized we got to make sure that we get our enough references in of baby comp before it's no longer available on the table. We've seen quite a few teams, not only here in APAC South, but also across all of our regions, really enjoying the composition here. Obviously, you get the help for the rotations with the Valkyrie, and a lot of ability to hunker down with both the Newcastle and that Gibby. We mentioned how kind of this games 3 through 5 gets more defensive. Easy flash. Oh no, maybe getting caught out. The bubble pops just in time.
Wolves Esports flying in as well into zone. We're going to see a lot of teams now starting to make their way into this POI as teams on that northern side.
Mentioned that elevated angle that they have as well, so not going to have much threat to their position unless maybe someone takes towards the sky. Of course, when they do that, they'll be notified, and that sounds cue will be enough for all 3 players to look up into that direction and be able to thwart off any attack. We were wondering who was going to be the first team off of the board. Finally see it there, Titan Esports Club. While they did go down early and get back to a 3, they will be the first team eliminated.
Rendang now getting into some trouble. Look at this ultimate coming out from Wolves, trying to get rid of the team who is resetting on the outside, but they aren't having much luck with those as well. As we can see, that zone closes once again. We have 19 squads still standing. Q, that is correct. 19 squads still out here in game number 3.
Mention that position that Gen G was in. Decent for now, as they do have complete control of the southern side, but eventually will have to move a little bit more central. The problem is, as we continue closing in towards where this zone is at, you can see a lot of the buildings that are currently in play will no longer be in play. So for teams who do have the ability to build their own cover, whether it's the Newcastle, those Gibby bubbles, that's going to be a little bit of an added benefit. So especially for the teams that are rocking the baby comp, they'll be happy as far as this next ring.
We have a Kraber cam as well out here. VKG with the Kraber. Looking down, and well, in a really good spot here as well. Q Kraber with unlimited ammo, guys. VKG look to try and hold the south side of this zone.
Not just a Kraber, unlimited ammo Kraber, which makes it that much more spicy. On the other side of the little separation from them is Gen G. We see Asia's rocking the longbow. We're going to be able to find a 108 there. Not going to really be able to do anything off of the back of that. Really just more kind of help and see if you can find ways to help knock players down, eliminate some of these players. Essentially, you know, kind of help the lobby trip with that.
Here we go. DCG looking to be aggressive, I think, here with a team that is close by. A lot of teams starting to move into zone. As we can see, we also see RRQ moving into a better position. The closest team to them is Havoc, but we still have 19 squads out here in a match point final for our regional finals. Insane quality. You'd think we'd have this in scrims all week. Nope, we haven't seen anything like it, so I'm just going to have to try and enjoy it as much as I can. Oh, S8UL getting eliminated as well.
That's going to be good for the rest of the lobby, as that team was the one that was closest to that match point. Kind of crazy to think about because they had Pryo landing up here in this POI itself. Hey, who's landing right in front of Orchid as they look to rotate on over? That is an unfortunate situation to find yourself in, as they will very quickly find themselves knocked. And this is going to be where the kill feed starts to light up like a Christmas tree, Stoney.
Yeah, don't hate me, chat, if I miss everything. This is going to be absolutely insane right now. Orchard do move into the same house as Wolves Esports. Pretty scary going here for the team of Team Orchard, as they have to try and hold it down for now. TYK trying to figure their way in as Arama getting some damage here with their Gibby ults, but it seems like an 18 squad still standing with round 5, 25 seconds away from closing.
I mean, right now, when you know so many players are left, you really have to be careful about where you rotate on in. Aram will be able to find the last left to wet live from TYK. That picks up a point before they start their rotate. Now with S8UL gone, Victory Esports, technically the highest placed team that is still left alive. They move on in and they'll be able to hunker down their position. The problem though is they're not quite inside this next ring, so they will have to move here.
They will. Walking L looking straight at them at the moment. BCG also need to make their way into zone here, Q. So with 17 squads left alive, it is going to be pretty hard going for a lot of these teams.
The zone where it's heading on in at, there is not very much coverage. So, I mean, for teams that are later on the rotate, good luck to ya. Dogs Red, we had mentioned how they were looking for a big day. Yet again, they find themselves alive as a ring of 5 starts to close on in. They've technically got coverage for now, but will need to move. PXX will be all left to XD. A warning shot of the PK around the corner. Gen G all going to be left to Asia's. Can they keep themselves alive? Maybe just for a moment.
PXX still alive as well. VK Gaming looking really good at the moment and in a really good spot. As we can see, QQ still standing. Kraber in the hand of LQ takes the head off. As we can see, they're going to move in to try and clean up. He does have the unlimited Kraber in his hand, and this is scary when VKG have this much control.
Got complete control of the southern side of the zone as well, especially if they can wipe up this fight on Dog Red that sit directly below them. Victory Esports also goes out in the 12th spot, which means more teams that were in the top. Oh my goodness gracious, the collat to not only hit the 210, but the player that's behind them as well. All sorts of nades getting sent across the way. DCG could very well be out, and there it is. They'll be out in 11th.
VK Gaming now, like we said, in full control in this position. We still have 10 squads left standing out here as well. Team Orchid looking to try and stay alive, ran straight into those fences, but BCG are down to a solo, and I do not like their chances as Wolves Esports move in to clean up BCG. Team Orchid now, they understand that they need to try and figure their way into zone. They do have Valkyrie also. Havoc gets eliminated. Wolves Esports overlooking the same team, but this feels like a VKG game for sure.
And VKG really only has to worry about RRQ that is directly off below them. Right now, they also have to worry about the teams that are further down the hill ascending towards them. So you don't want to full send onto RRQ. LQ Dud, however, still has that Kraber and will continue to land shots.
Hey, He just took the head off his teammate just then, but that's okay. VKG now moving into the action. Dogred still standing. As we can see, Team Awkward also still standing, trying to get some more KP. They're using the Gibby Bubble to their advantage. They're moving in on the solo. That's maybe not the play by Noel Sang, but they will have to try and get some more KP. But RRQ is still alive. We have 4 squads now left standing, with RRQ trying to figure out their way into zone as well. A Ram that just seems like there's Gibby Bubbles and Valkyrie ults happening everywhere.
Everyone's popping their bubbles. Everyone's taking to the sky here as well. VKG trying to be the last one to be able to do just that. The problem, though, is the zone so closed on in. They're having to keep it tight as they land. Oh, but this is brilliant. They land right on the high ground. They'll be able to find a knock on the Wolves. The problem, though, they land right into the bubble of RRQ. VKG out. RRQ versus ARAM for the win.
ARAM versus RRQ, and look at Easy Flash going to the height. This is going to be a strafing flame, Easy Flash kind of play right now. The PK in the hand, but it's going to be an ARAM Game 3 victory and our first game on ED.
I would have absolutely lost my mind if Pricey finds a way to get his feet back on the ground with the PK in hand, found the second knot. If he finds the third, I would have gone crazy. Instead, it's ARAM who are going to be able to come out on top. And this is a squad that currently sits outside of the bubble. They came in today into the 14th spot. It feels like realistically, if they want a chance to be able to go to Paris, if it's not a dub, it has to be a top 2. That game right there is going to help get them at least moving in that direction.
What a game for ARAM. They will take the victory and they'll be pretty happy with themselves with a 21-point game. The best thing about that is S8UL went out in 19th with only 2 points, Q, which means that gives us some more games up our sleeve for moving forward here in regional finals. RRQ gets second, VK Gaming third, Wolves Esports fourth, and Team Orchard rounding out the top 5. And well, for our series overall, we're going to have S8UL still leading the way, just in front of Victory Esports. Dogred sitting third, ARAM fourth, and PXX rounding out our top 5 here after our first 3 games. Let's go and have a look at which legend is getting banned for game number 4.
Let me see a Gibby ban. And by 1-2 as well. Valkyrie so close, but no more bubbles, which means no more baby comp that we get to talk about, at least in its full composition. Still the chance of seeing some Newcastles. Definitely going to be seeing some Valkyries as well. But 1 recon, 1 assault, and 1 support legend, all going to be banned moving forward. What would normally be considered the midway point. We don't know how long we're going, so we're just going to say we're 3 games in.
Exactly. Oh, so far so good, Q. We'll go and have a look, obviously, at the map scene and see 3 different winners so far. Victory Esports.
Let's go. What? Buffering? Why? Why is that buffering?
S8UL and ARAM. Now, I think ARAM, are they the only team out here today that have come through PLQ?
That are playing today, I think so? Or did HABNW wouldn't have came through PLQs, right?
Yeah,
they were invited.
HABNW changed their name. So it's an interesting stat to be seen. As we can see, that is a pretty big game for ARAM here in match number 3. Yeah, and Ubi as well. That is right. Well, we are heading back to ED next, Q, but we may as well go and have a look at it. Who is doing the most damage and kills so far out of our first 3?
Yeah, let's take a look at it. See who's been fragging out their mind and helping lead the way, and can't be too surprised, I suppose, with the fact that S8UL has 2 at the top. Sharky and Legacy, not Song Yu, Pricey, and VC will be rounding out the top 5. When we look at damage getters, Wolves having 2 of the top 3. Wen, Fafa, Fief, No Name, LQ Dud, and Jackie Chan as far as those are sitting. So I would say a lot of our usual suspects, but it is definitely interesting to see that S8UL has been so successful in getting so many kills while not really finding as much or not needing
that dry right now. I'm trying to hold on, but if you guys are watching, please hit that follow button. If you're over at Wigs, make sure you're following him as well. If you're watching at Droga, if you're watching wherever you guys are watching, we thank you guys so much for all the support here for APAC South Regional Finals. And there's no better way to kick off ALGS Regional Finals weekend than being right here in APAC South. So we'll be right back with some more games around the corner for another lot of ED, Olympus, and Stormpoint.
Okay. City Hall. बट जोन एंड कहाँ हुआ? भाई कुछ फर्क नहीं. जो देख सकते हो हम पे इतना पॉइंट है सर। थर्टी फाइव 28 26 यार हम 24 वीके 19 हो गया उनका यार हम 24 है। There is no match limit in the final. There are no limit or number of teams who can be match point eligible. How to become match point eligible once the team reach the required match point. The final upcoming matches become match point eligible for the teams. The first team win match after match point eligible will declared as the winner champion. After the winner champion declared, second to 20th will ranked on the point table basis. If the winner is declared before 6 games have been played, the remaining 19 will continue. For 6 games played, the remaining 19 team will continue to playing until 6 games are played. Oh, I don't know that. ये scene है. If the winner is declared before 6 games have been played, the remaining 9 team will be continue playing until 6 games are played. भाई मजा आएगा. एटलीस्ट शॉर्ट 6 मैच तो होगा अब. मजा है. स्टार्ट थोड़ा देख लेते हैं. स्टार्ट उल्फ का अच्छा है नहीं. प्लेसमेंट हमारा थोड़ा ज़्यादा है. किल उनका ज़्यादा है. टोटल पॉइंट में वो भी थोड़ा ज़्यादा है. बाकी सही है. हम कंसिस्टेंसी तो है हम पे. कोई ना. लेट्स सी.
It's the south side of that City Hall side of things. So pretty unlucky for S8UL. Team Orchard doing okay in that game for me. We seen a run victory though, and they came from Stadium. I don't think you can get any further away.
No, that was quite the trek for them. So definitely interesting. I feel like we have seen, I don't want to call it a theme because it hasn't been the case today, but I felt like there have been times throughout the course of APAC South here in the split where it's like, if you have the far rotate, you very well could find a way to come out on top. I feel like we've had quite a few of those over the course of the day. There's a chance that we could be heading down south. We very rarely, I feel like, go all the way down towards where DCG is at as far as that Shipyard Arcade. Of course, we've heard that brought up on land before, and then we ended up going down towards Shipyard Arcade. So only time will tell if that's the direction that we do go. What's going to be interesting, however, I was going to say, if we do go towards that southeastern side, a lot of the teams that would have prio are teams that haven't necessarily had the best starts to their day. I mean, DKG just had a decent turnaround in game number 3 over there at Humbert Labs. They'll have decent prio here. But when you look at the rest of them, I mean, Titan Esports Club, DCG, even TYK, all still somewhat struggling here on the day.
Yes, very much struggling, as we can see, but there's a lot of games left, Q, and the best thing about it, as we know, it's not easy to get to 50 points, and then it is not easy to win a game once you are on 50 points. So the best thing for a lot of these teams is they've just got to try and get it going at some point. I feel like match point, it lets those teams be able to hopefully, you know, you're not seeing a match or 2 or 3 match point teams by game 5 or 6, which I don't think we will. But by games 5, 6, you can start to get into the flow of things, and then by then you're still in a pretty good spot in a match point format. So it's probably the best thing about match point, which I love. As we can see, Team Ubi with their hands full, as well as Avi just trying to stay alive for now.
They'll get back into their safety. That's going to be the good news as far as for now, keeping themselves as that full 3. Also, worth noting, Doom on the Rampart. We'll see a good bit of the Rampart now making appearance out on the server due to the fact that the Gibby having been banned in that last game. So while it's not necessarily the baby comp that everyone loves to talk about, still a lot of ability to be able to fortify your position. Not only do you have that big old Newcastle wall, as well as the mobile wall, the mobile wall that can obviously move, but you also have those Rampart walls, which can also help you put down extra damage as well. So Team Ubi for now are just going to look to hunker down.
S8UL looking to move in early here, so we could see maybe a match point. Ooh, the closest team to match point, sorry, getting eliminated here early on, as it looks like zone knowledge is the key here for a lot of these people, and that's all S8UL are trying to get at the moment. The closest team to them, well, that's PXX, who are also trying to do the exact same thing. Well, with 20 squads left, I think S8UL most likely rotate to zone now that they know where it is.
Yeah, I have a feeling they probably don't want to take the risk of the fight out here with PXX, especially after the way that game 3 went down. What's the sense in spending yet another game like on the verge of that match point? And I know some people will probably say, oh, they're not on the verge, they still got a couple bit, but for a team that has the ability to close this gap in one game, we'll call where they're at on the verge of that match point. Checking back in with Team Ubi, we have all sorts of walls to help fortify their position. Now, not only that, we got the Shiva out. The question is, do we see her sing? It doesn't look like anyone's going to look to push onto this point of Team Ubi, at least as far as for now, and I mean understandably so. Nobody's really going to want to take a fight into that much sort of fortification, plus when they hear that Tila actually ripping. But holy moly, what shots across the direction here with the longbow is VK Gaming is going to be able to find a knot.
I think they get the kill as well, so pretty well done there by the boys of VKG. As we can see, DCG getting some downs as well. As it looks like Mama Clubs might be getting eliminated here as our first team off the board, and that is exactly what has happened. 19 squads now left standing with DCG. Some KP on the board.
Mentioned they're a team that, while having got a little bit of prio on their rotation, having landed at Shipyard, they're a team that could really use a strong game number 4, especially for a team overall came into the day in the 13th position. Remember, knowing that top 9 are the ones that go off to EWC. They're going to have a relatively strong day. You figure probably looking inside the top 5 if you want to have a realistic chance at EWC. And while they're not necessarily sitting there currently, sitting in the 13th spot, you know, 11 points, they've at least gotten themselves a couple, one strong, you know, top 3 with some good KP, and all of a sudden they're in the hunt.
UK Gaming, Havoc as well underneath. Haven't had the best start, but Havoc hadn't, I don't feel like they had a bad game last game, Havoc, so only 9 points at the moment. TYK, Rendang and BCG all around the same mark at the moment as well. So with 19 squads left standing, there's still a lot of chances here for teams at the bottom end of the leaderboard to get some points here.
It is worth noting for Havoc, who you were just talking about, while they are one of the teams that entered today just inside the bubble, they were currently sitting in 6th. They're sitting inside, I think, the bottom 5. So depending on how some of the teams behind them continue to do throughout the course of the day, they're going to start to feel the pressure, especially as teams like a S8UL start to approach in on that match point. Here's PXX and able to find two that are pushing their way through the portal. I believe that's EDG that pulled up, and it's EDG who got sat down.
Yeah, but the man that they needed to stay standing was the Newcastle, and he does. But that was some pretty smart nades by the man over... I can't remember, it was PXX, I think.
Yeah.
He will stay as a solo for now. So 174 needing to find his way to a crafter to get his boys back.
Tough here. I mean, at least you got some time and you got some room, as most of the teams that are inside what is currently the second ring are all stuck over on that eastern side, shoved down between Old Town and Humbert Labs. Interestingly enough, Humbert Labs is where we do see... Oh, no, I was thinking that was where Genji landed. Never mind. I was about to start a statement. I'm going to take that one right back and put it into my back pocket. Rendang, though, has been able to find the last one left alive for PXX. And just as much as we were saying PXX had some space to potentially find a way to get their teammates back in, they're going to watch the rest of this here from the lobby.
How Rendang play this game, they haven't had the best start either, but they're a team that can just quietly pop off. Rendang, so let's have a look at S8UL, who found a spot in zone, and we're pretty happy with that one by the sounds of it.
I think they're the only one currently as far as in any of the building that they're in. It feels like most of the teams that have made their way to this eastern side of the zone sit in a similar sort of position. For S8UL, keeping in mind they can't win the series here even if they were to be over that 50-point threshold and win this game. They didn't start this game over that 50-point threshold. So just something to keep in mind for maybe anybody who's maybe hasn't gotten a chance to check out match point format in the past. But for them, I mean, they're just looking to try and continue to poke and prod away, right? Like, you're sitting close to that 50 points. You should be able to get a majority of it here with the position they currently sit in.
वही target है.
TYK.
कैसे भी निकालो
Very
वो
close by
निकालना.
to HAB and W.
Camp करके हो.
As we can see, holding it down with the caustic for now. Team RRQ also trying to stay alive, Q. So a lot of teams, well, 18 squads exactly. Round 2, 50 seconds closing. Still standing.
Wild Sage भी तो नहीं है हम पे.
All of them sitting at a full 3 as well, since we did see that lone solo from PXX taken off on our screen not too long ago. Did mention most of these teams anticipating this continuing to pull off towards the eastern side of this ring. There are a few teams that are still off towards the west, the most western of them being Genji. Can't say that I'm too surprised by that one. Titan Esports Club, who do currently sit on the roof, where we do see on your screen currently, they've had a decent day. I mean, they're sitting in 11th. They've been able to pick up a couple of points here and there. Strong game here, though, could somewhat put them in the conversation for podium.
It could. It could. And I feel like Titan Esports Club have been around for a while, so they're not a team that struggle in certain situations, but they do have a lot of experience also with matches like this. So be interesting. Set of games, 18 squads still standing. I guess the only thing we can go and have a look at now would be the zone and exactly where that's going to pull. And well,
I knew it.
ECG in a pretty good spot.
That's why I was wondering, with all these teams packed off to the east, what are the chances that we get one of those awkward pulls back to the west? And that is exactly what the doctor ordered. You mentioned BCG in a phenomenal spot here, and now all of these teams, even S8UL, who I just talked about, I thought had a solid position if they were looking towards that 50-point match point threshold. S8UL now going to have a tough rotation in because they're one of the closer ones. So they're going to have a bunch of teams that are more than likely going to be rotating in behind them, and they're going to have to watch their 6 on the way in.
Genji Esports once again on the right edge of zone. Now, we were in the right edge of zone last time, but unfortunately for them, VKG pushed them down. little bit deeper to where they probably most likely wanted to be. And that was all just because the Kraber was on the field and in the hand of one scary man. That's LQ Dud. So we'll have to wait and see how this game goes, as it is finishing on the west side here in Shipyard Arcade.
Gen G will take that building right next to BCG that we were talking about. They'll be essentially in the 3 buildings on this furthermost side. On the other side of them is going to be DCG. So the question becomes, one, either the teams next door, do they just continue to at least find ways to get knocks, making it easy for any latecomers on in, especially off of the back of maybe a Valkyrie ult to be able to take them out? Meanwhile, while they are kind of isolated on this northern side, they do still technically have to move. It's going to be Ubi that sits on the other side, and I think Ubi is going to be struggling enough with the storm on the rotate on in, which means Ram should be able to clean it up.
Ram to get down 1, so Ubi in some trouble, but 4. Dog Red right now in a pretty good spot to get rid of the team that won game number 3 as well. And as we can see, Gapwang looking to maybe move in on some action. Ram, know the situation, as we can see. They're just gonna have to try and play it slow for now, with Dog Red pretty close by.
The Sparrow ult gets sent across, gives a chance for Kilopause to swing across the opposite way, has the wingman in hand. One knock has been found by Gapwang. Unfortunately, that Sparrow ult didn't find any value because of that pylon there off of the back of that the Watson, but it's not going to be enough. Dog Red should be able to clean this up.
1 man left standing. Kilopause moves in. Aram get eliminated. So just like that, Aram go out, and we now have 16 squads left alive. As we can see, a lot of teams now starting to get into some action. Orchard trying to find a way in. They are down to a solo, with TYK getting some KP on the board as well. As you can see, Edward Gaming trying to hold it down with Rampart fences everywhere to hide behind.
Gives them some extra coverage. That's going to be the good news, but will they be able to find a way to still stay on their feet? That is yet to be seen. We had talked about this position that S8UL was in earlier. We thought it would be good for a top 5, but then it ended up pulling over that western side. We thought they'd be one of the earlier teams to rotate. Instead, they'll be one of the last squads. So we'll have to see if they can find any sort of real estate that is comfortable enough for them to etch in for themselves. Edward Gaming, we talked about them earlier on the day. Top 10 is usually where they find themselves. Can they find a way to close that into a top 5? Dog Red ascends up over the wall, and Kilopause goes crazy. Victory Sports is out of here.
Dog Red are starting to farm a little bit here. We have 13 squads left standing, and they look really good. The closest team to them is Havoc and Titan Esports Club. Guess who else is still standing out there, Q? That is VK Gaming, and in a pretty good position as well.
They're on the northernmost side of this zone, so they'll be able to slow walk this thing down to the south, where I anticipate this thing will continue to close. We'll get that information, here in just a couple of moments. So as that does pull a little bit more towards the buildings, that does mean that teams like BCG and Gen G have priority as far as the buildings that currently sit. EDG will have to move just a little bit.
Rendang in a pretty good position here to try and get some KP as well. 13 squads left standing. Dog Red still getting a lot of downs on the outskirts as teams are trying to rotate in as well. The problem for Dog Red is they need to get into a better position, as they have about 40 seconds to figure out where they're going to go.
And the problem is where they're at on this ring, there's a chance that they take a fight. BKG or S8UL could very well pull up for a third party. Neither of those teams are who I want to give any sort of health advantage on over to. Titan Esports Club, while they'll at least have the safety of the building during their fight, I think they will technically need to move just outside of it in order to be safe once this zone ends up closing in. They'll be able to find a re-knock on the 1 here onto Havoc, but I don't think that's going to give them a big enough of a green light to push forward.
Not right now. As you can see, Wolves Esports in a pretty good spot as well. Edward Gaming still alive. A lot of teams going to get eliminated here with this rotate in, you'd think. Rendang very close by as well, Q. 13 squads still standing is insane.
This ring officially closing. You'll have some teams taking to the sky. Some team will be looking for that rotate in by foot. Dog Red. Well, they'll be able to get Fafa Feet back up onto their feet. They do have that Valkyrie. If they look to take to the sky, they'll have to reset first. Gen G, we mentioned, the building that they were sitting in does currently sit inside of this zone. As long as they can make sure that no one is able to breach the doors, this will be at least a way to find DCG knocked down in the feed. And I think that's S8UL that has been able to pull up on a Gen G, but Gen G does a great job of staying them off.
Yeah, S8UL now down to a solo as well, so not looking good here for our lobby leaders at the moment. Edward Gaming still standing, Wolves Esports still standing, and I'm pretty sure VKG are still standing as well as a full three. Some real big names still out here.
There's some big names out here. 10 teams still left, though. There is a lot to unfold. I think S8UL could be going on in a minute. We just saw Sharky fall with yet another ARG star. Dog Red still able to keep themselves on their feet, and they have themselves a decent position where they're at on this bridge. They've got coverage to both their left and right, and one of the most height as far as the teams that are directly around them. The question becomes, what's the safest route towards the middle part of the ring where this thing closes in?
Let's see, a lot of teams still standing. Let's go and have a look at Gen G. That's Gen G now. Have their hands full, but they're in a pretty good position. Watson Pylon as well. Going to keep them alive for now. S8UL don't like their chances as Jesco, he's down to a little bit of health, and they will get eliminated at 8th position. 7 squads now left standing in our final zone.
Worth noting, that means another game where we won't have anyone on match point. Well, actually, let's not say that just quite yet. Dog Red, yeah, I was going to say, with where they're sitting, if they pick up quite a bit of the KP that are still left on the table and finish with like a top 2, there is a chance Gen G, Ziki is going to end up falling. They're inside of their building, however, so they should be able to stabilize. And the question then becomes, since they're the only team that's on the southwestern quadrant, which way do you decide to rotate?
Axel in the hand as well. They don't have any ultimates, Q, so this is where it gets a little bit difficult for Gen G, but with the bow in the hand and KP to be had, Asia is going to find you, and just like that, Titan Esports Club, they're in a lot of trouble. Wolves Esports now, they're in some trouble as well. As you can see, BCG, they're still alive. Titan Esports Clubs get eliminated. We now have not many squads left alive. As we can see, Dog Red moving in to a better position as well.
This is actually interesting. That's VKG that's on the other side of this fight in the building. If they can wipe them out, they'll have complete control of the northern side of the zone. They can use that small little wall as extra coverage. TYK now going to go out. Dog Red in a top 5 position looking for a dub.
Yeah, they have their hands full though. They have walked straight into VK Gaming. QQ, the last one left standing. Gen G get eliminated as well. BCG eliminated. There's only one man left for VK Gaming. Dog Red now as a duo going up against Wolves Esports. This may be a Dog Red win, and they might be on match point. And just like that, we have a team on match point in game number 5.
I told you at the start of the day, this Dog Red squad had the capability when you look at their experience. Kilopause, Fafa Fif, and it's gonna say Gomp Wang. For those of y'all who maybe paid more attention last year, it's Gomp Gaps, changing names, still same players, still same ability to lay it down. And you mentioned it, with that dub right there, Dog Red will officially be on match point off of the back of a 26-point dub.
That is insane. 26 points, and they dominated, absolutely dominated all the way through that game. We're going to have a look at the match summary, and well, Dog Red with a 26-point game. That is right. They just got half of what their score was before this game. They were on 26 points. They just dropped 26 points in one game. They will be moved in to game number 5 as the only team on match point. And as we can see, for the series overall, Dog Red pretty comfortably in the lead.
Dog Red comfortably in the lead. They're on match point. I would say S8UL are within striking distance of match point, but we've been saying that for a while now. So we're going to have to kind of hold on to our hats and see how that one does shake out. But it is worth noting that we are getting to this point where over the course of the next couple of games, there will be more teams joining Dog Red on match point. So while it feels good to get that win under the belt, put yourself over the 50-point threshold, getting the match point is one thing. To then pick up a dub is another. And like I just said for Dog Red, down an 18th point, it feels like it is win or your split number one is done.
Oh, I guess we better go and see which team... which legend is banned now, Q. And moving forward, we are going to have no more Newcastle. That means Gibby, Newcastle gone here in game 3 and 4. Valkyrie very close by, getting banned for game number 5, but she stays alive for now. But I'm pretty sure she's going to probably get banned next as we head back to Olympus here for game number 5. And as we can see, 2 supports, 1 assault and 1 recon banned so far after our first 4. We'll go and have a look. As we can see, Dog Red will get a win here for match 3 and 4. And of course, the 2 teams that do not have a logo decide to win here today.
I can't help but chuckle a little bit. Victory Esports won the first. I'm like, yeah, usually in APAC South, we don't see many teams pick up a dub on single digits. And it takes until game number 4 for us to see a double-digit win. But hey, big shout out to Dog Red. We just talked about able to put themselves up to match point off of the back of that. And I do have to agree with your point on the Valkyrie. If we don't see it here, getting banned on Olympus, you would feel like surely going back to Storm Point would be where it's taken off of the board. So we'll have to wait and see there. But while we do have a couple of minutes before loading in this next lobby, I know it's been a couple of, I guess it's been, what, 2 games? Yeah, let's see how our top kills leaders are looking moving forward. Or actually, we'll look at those POI. Tony, are you following my lead? I'm so sorry, my guy. Yeah, let's take a quick lead here at those kill leaders. It was Gop Wang, who we just saw popping off there towards the end with their teammate Killapaws. In that first and second position, 11 and 9. Sharky and Legacy from S8UL with 9 and 7. And then Crazy Kong winding down that top 5 as well. As when we look at damage, Wolves no name. Can't say we're too surprised seeing him sitting at the top there. Fafa Fief, when QQ and LQ Dud rounding out the top 5 there. So definitely a lot of our usual suspects, both on kills and damage. What's interesting is the Wolves having 2 players at the top as far as damage, but still, I think just shy of the podium when we look at overall leaderboards. Of course, for them, they came in 2 today, sitting in the number 1 spot. So not like they're really feeling too pressed, but still finding a way to be able to at least find a way to damage, put a lot of damage on the server. Always fun to watch.
We'll go and have a look at the Olympus POIs again as we are heading back here for game number 5. And well, we did have a game, was it game 2 finish on the eastern side of the map? Will we see that again, Q, or are we heading towards some of the well-known end zones here in Rift and Bonsai?
Yeah, I feel like I wouldn't mind seeing a Rift zone just because I feel like for Dog Red, this is going to be your best chance at a dub win ski here is if it ends up there. You've got a lot of, I feel like you'd have a prio onto that rotation. We've seen teams who are landing where Dog Red is, or at least in that general vicinity, be able to rotate to those buildings that are just up north and be able to find a relatively strong end game there, because we did just mention, right, this is going to probably be Dog Red's best chance at taking home the dub, because more than likely, if not S8UL, somebody else surely, if not over the course of this game, over the course of the next 2, going to be joining them, which just makes it more and more likely that somebody else is able to pick up the dub.
I don't know if I have this on here. There is a pretty cool stat about how many times they have won on a map, but I don't think I have it on at the moment, which I can put it on the next break that we have. But So far, so good for Dog Red, and they are going to be the only team on match point moving into Olympus. The best thing about Olympus for S8UL is, well, S8UL performed pretty well over on Olympus, and they're pretty close to match point as well, Q, which means that we may see 2 teams on match point after this game.
Yeah, there's a good chance. I mean, even for S8UL, right? Like, they don't even necessarily need a win to move up into like that match point. So even like, let's say S8UL gets like a top 3 or 4 with a handful of KP, and one of those teams that's sitting in that, you know, like 3rd through 6th spot ends up as well, there's a chance that you could add 2. So again, I think that just goes to reinforce the point for Dog Red here. You know, it really feels like if you are going to punch it across, it has to be sooner than later. Again, a team that we know with their experience, it's essentially what 2/3 of that 5-year roster, and then you got Paws added on in. You would have expected them to have already been in contention for those top 9 spots. So definitely feeling the pressure of needing a Dubaruski here today. You've shown, one, the ability to stat points across that 50-point threshold. Plus, you've already picked up a dub here today as well. So you've proven to yourself that you can do it.
That's true. That's true. Remember, chat, there is coins to be won today. APAC South is the keyword in chat. For everyone that is asking about drops in chat, if there was drops, saying that there's drops, that means that we have drops. If there's not drops, that is just because EA or Apex, whatever, have decided that it is not the right time to put drops on. So if you guys want your drops, it most likely have to be when a Play Apex stream is on, which is tomorrow, June 7. But we are here, about to get into game number 5. It looks like everyone is choosing their legends as we speak. Q, is there any team you really want to talk about here moving into these next lot of games?
Maybe it's bias because I picked them to win. But Gen G, as far as where they're sitting on the leaderboard, if my memory serves me right, they're at like 11th or 12th as far as on the day. And they're a team that like is sitting just inside the bubble, but because of those influx in points, as well as, you know, how close right now that qualifying line is looking, things are starting to look scary for Gen G, especially if they continue to struggle putting up points. I feel like historically games 4, 5, and 6 have been a little tougher for Gen G. Of course, I say that, in last week, game number 6, we saw them pick up a dub. But just historically through this season, as the compositions have turned to a little bit more of a defensive composition, that has been tough. Ask and you shall receive, I suppose. I said I wanted to see something up north just because it does feel like Dog Red on the verge of putting themselves into EWC. And well, if we end up going to Rift, we mentioned those buildings up towards the north, up where that one player from Dog Red currently sits. There's a chance that they could be finding themselves a prime chance to end things here in game number 5.
And they get a pretty good position here, Q, as well. Do Dog Red for game number 5 to be able to finish it here. And I do like this POI, the way that they pick. I feel like a lot of teams go into it pretty smart. Now, you got to obviously realize that you're pretty close to zone. Well, you know, if we get Rift, but you're most likely going to see Rift no matter what. As we can see, though, Team Orchard, they're looking to maybe move in to Dog Red. They most likely know that Dog Red are close by, Q, and maybe they feel comfortable with getting some KP and getting rid of the match point team here early on.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think especially for Orchid, where they sit not only on the day, but overall in the standings when you talk about trying to make sure that they can qualify in that top 9 for EWC, surely they're going to look to try and take this team out relatively early. They're like, white tees, it doesn't matter. I'm going to go up onto the hunt. They went full send actually into Rift itself. Maybe not worried about Dog Red itself, but maybe just more worried about priority as far as a position inside of Rift.
Victory Esports making their way into zone as well. Orchid now have found their way in. Edward Gaming have found their way in. We have a lot of teams playing zone here early, Q. And just like that, Yubi down to a solo, as it looks like Havoc getting some KP on the board.
It's tough here too. You mentioned how all these teams were already starting to rotate their way on in. So while maybe there's ability to respawn in the vicinity? Are any of these teams that have rotated going to give you that ability to reset in the vicinity is going to be the question. I guess at least a good chance of being able to counter rotate and find a spot somewhere, but only time will tell. Rendang of the squads that has already made their way into Rift. Rendang has had a relatively quiet day though, so they will need to find a way to really use game 5 as their catalyst, especially since they are in a similar situation to what we've been talking about Dog Red, pretty much requiring a match point win if they're going to want to find themselves into EWC.
Titan Esports Club, looked like they were maybe chasing Wolves Esports. They do get one down on Wolves, and now Wolves are down to a duo. HAP and W now. They look like they're moving into some action, and well, they're just trying to find the solo from UV, the Sheila in their hand. Oh, they're not going to be able to get it. But Doom and Abby come back in.
You're still +1 at this point, right? You're up an extra player than you were earlier. Unfortunately, not going to be full strength, but it's still at least something. And there's still a chance to be able to make a play to get back to full strength here as well. We had mentioned HABNW since the change just a couple of weeks ago. It seems like they've started to figure things out, but unfortunately today is going to be their last crack at it. Victory Esports getting some shots sent their way because Sands is going to be able to keep themselves standing, and of course that pylon with the passive for the extra regen helping them as well. The problem is they're catching shots from multiple directions here, Sony.
Yeah, look who it is. Dog Red fighting for where they think Godspot will be, and they know that there's only one man left standing. Victory Esports get eliminated, and this team right now, Q, looks scary.
We've been wondering where this has been from Dog Red all split long. I'm glad to see it now. It is unfortunate, though, that they feel the pressure that they're feeling because they have to finish top 2 and not 2. It has to be a win here today with where they sit. The good news is that they are able to pull off the dub in this game. It's done and dusted. They're the only team that's on that match point. The problem, though, is with match point, it does have to end on a dub, and we all know how hard it is after you've picked up 1 in an ALGS lobby to pick up a second.
Especially in this lobby when you got teams like S8UL, VKG, Gen G, Wolves. I mean, the list goes on how big these names are and how good they are as well. Well, for Dog Red, they definitely have their work cut out for them, but the best thing about it, Q, is they may be the only team for a couple of games on match point, so they get a fair few chances here early on.
Yeah, I guess at least the good news with so many of the teams prioritizing a rotation into Rift is you won't have a lot of those teams that are, you know, close to match point really being able to frag out. Generally, we see that I feel like Olympus, while it does at times offer a faster rate of play, you don't tend to see as many teams popping off for like double-digit games other than the a couple of teams that finish in those top 3 where you're getting a majority of those off of placement itself. So definitely a good chance to, like you said, be on that match point for a couple by yourself here. We had seen them be able to have a decent performance, was that 2 games ago. Seeing if they can add to their tally here. Has the Sheila in the back pocket of Shizu as they do slowly walk up the shield, and oh my goodness, the nice amplification off the back of the wall as well.
One man now left standing. Everyone is pretty weak, though. No, not trying to heal themselves. And, well, Refrain, he's pretty weak as well. If he gets his spat off, we may see somehow Titan Esports Club win this. He's won! Oh, hold on a second. Oh, he gets shot in the back. Song Yu gets the job done, but DCG from afar will clean up the fight.
Who's gonna keep this beautiful beast running?
That is unfortunate, but that is the life of a battle royale, man. You think you have an isolated fight, and all of a sudden there's someone taking pop shots from a distance. Team Orchid, they've been relatively quiet here today. I know this was your pick, Stoney, as far as coming out on top. We know that they have the ability to find that spark. We've seen them do it at times throughout the course of the split. It just seems like today they've really struggled to put things together.
18 squads still standing. Havoc pretty close by to the lads as well. TYK, well, we'll have to wait and see how this game is going to end. But with 18 squads left standing, Dog Red, the only team on that far northern side of zone, they're in a pretty good chance to try and clean this up, like you said. And well, BCG, they're trying to find their way into zone as well. But there, in front of them is Wolves Esports, who will not help their cause.
Three blues here for now for Wolves, but I'd be surprised to see them be able to upgrade that relatively soon. You see no name on that Axel. I would say makes this Wolves Esports squad a little bit more scary, especially with them out here on the edge of the ring. Nice play by Crazy Kong. When fallen though, and Crazy Kong ends up falling next. There's a chance that Wolves Esports could go out here.
Yeah, Wolves could get eliminated. This is a, what is it, a 1v2 situation. Oh my god, movement. No name. Nearly doing it to BCG like that would have been insane, but Heck does get the cleanup. Wolves Esports get eliminated. We have only 17 squads left standing.
This BCG team has been so mind-blowing to me, this split here, Stoney. We saw them have a great match day number one, and then they've just kind of slowly fallen off since then. We've seen flashes of what we just saw on our screen, a great isolated fight with Wolves Esports, a team that generally does not lose isolated 3v3s. But just for some reason, they've struggled. News for BCG where they're at in 12th. Still a chance to be able to pull it off here today, but they've got to start making some noise because they've had a quiet one here through the first 4 games.
But they have. UB now, another team having a pretty quiet day. They're going to make their way into zone with 17 squads left standing and everyone knowing that Rift is the place to be. Pretty hard to try and find a spot somewhere safe for now.
They can find their spot here. They'll at least tuck their way in towards the door. No Watson to be able to use as far as fences to lock things down, but you do have those walls from the rampart to one, be able to play around for safety, but also potentially amplify damage as well. Here's BCG will start to make their way into a rift here on the far eastern side. Heck has already fallen. Limo will take a peek through the window with the RE45, but misses everything.
S8UL, Sharky getting all 3 kills, cleans up BCG. Legacy is still down, but no one very close by to move in on the action queue. So 16 squads left alive. BCG maybe being a little too aggressive in that rotate down. We'll go and have a look though and see where this zone is pulling. And well, oh my god, Dog Red, if you thought you're in a good spot, you're in a pretty tough one now.
Oh, you're in the doghouse right now if you're Dog Red. You got to pull past everybody, and you got some fighting squads between where you are and where you need to go. This is going to be a good pool, though, for teams like RRQ, who won't have nearly as far as they need to rotate. Definitely an interesting composition looking at this one here. I mean, we've got the Catalyst with the Seer on top of the Valve. They'll take to the skies, however, as they look to rotate on. Oh, don't tell me they're going to go all the way to the north here, Stoney.
Well, hopefully not. They can see the zone just change, so hopefully that's enough time for them to go back to where they just were. So they will try and figure out where to play, and well, for now they're just going to have to try and hold it down on this south side of zone. TCG, well, they're very close by as well. And with that rotate back, they're in a pretty good spot.
Last one.
If DCG tries to make a play just over the way there towards RRQ. Probably not just in the mere sense that you don't know who's in the surrounding area. I mean, 16 squads still left alive with 50 seconds left until this 4th ring pulls on in. Any sort of prolonged fight ends up being a death sentence to both teams that are involved. Rendang here off of the back of Bathory will be able to take out S8UL. That's going to be good news for Rendang when it comes to potentially having more time on match point solo.
Oh, S8UL, they're in a pretty good spot. Dog Red now, and they have their hands full, Q, and this rotate in is going to be so tough for those boys with 14 squads to
It could get the benefit of the fact that it does seem like Aram more focused on moving forward than potentially clearing their 6. I'm not sure if they know that there's still a potential of a team that could pop in behind them. And I mean, understandably so. Things have been quiet enough here at Power Grid for so long. Aram does have, of course, the ability to take to the sky for their rotate if they opt to do so. Same thing here for Dog Red. The only thing for Dog Red is you are sitting on the triple blues, so not having as much health, especially losing about 50% of your health to the ring itself. You have to be safe on this rotate.
Let's see how they go here with this rotate in. Rendang close by to them. PXX as well. Dog Red now. Well, they're alive for now. Q in a pretty good spot, but like you said, the shield situation may be a little bit hard for them to hold it down. And we're gaming as a duo on the backside as well, with Dog Red pretty close to them also.
14 squads left. PXX taking this fight to this team on the height, doing a great job of holding them off. Team Orchid ends up falling in the 14th spot, which is definitely unfortunate for them. We were talking about how they were really looking to try and get some momentum building here in game 5. Rendang currently are your kill leaders and looking to try and find a reset. On the northern side of the zone, it's Havoc, who have been able to do a great job of fortifying their position, but they're going to have to leave here in just a couple minutes.
But they will. A lot of rotating needing to happen for a lot of teams here in a second. Edward Gaming still alive. Just for now, Sheilas are coming out from both team. Havoc, though, with their hands full. Aram looking to move in as well. There's a lot of teams left standing. Edward Gaming trying to stay alive. It is all up to the Watson. But I don't like his chances with Havoc still on their tail. Edward Gaming get eliminated. Let's go and have a look at VK Gaming as they move in to try and get a cheeky little third party. One Dog Red just got eliminated.
Dog Red goes out, so that means no match point teams going to be left alive as we move.
Dog Red eliminated हो जाएगा खत्म.
Who can join them on match point is the question. PXX will be watching the rest of this one from the lobby. It does feel like VK Gaming have a chance to potentially put themselves over that 50-point threshold. They would need to pick up a decent chunk of the KP that's left in this lobby.
That they would. RRQ now very close to Gen G Esports. They get the nice sear scan here. The Cat Q's coming out as well, which is going to help them. They do need to rotate more towards the side they're looking at. And as we can see, a lot of teams, though, Q starting to make their way towards where these teams are on this south side of zone.
Clubs gets removed. RRQ will now be able to use the Dark Veil to at least cut line of sight for part of the lobby as they look to continue their rotate on in. Team Ubi going to be taken out here out in the 7th spot. Ziki, only one left alive here currently for Gen G, and I don't think they'll be able to make a play for those death box respawns either. So just simply trying to see how much of those placement points they can pick up from here. Aram, they have a tough rotate. They're going to be rotating uphill, and they've got a long ways to go.
And they got a lot of work to do here. Team RRQ, they have to try and pick who to push here, Q, because they put themselves in the middle of so many teams. Strafing Flame's going to get eliminated. It is all now down to Pricey. That nade is so lucky that he had his shield up just then. But Aram looking pretty good here at the moment with only 6 squads left. HABNW, Aram, RRQ, Rendang, VK Gaming, and Relove DCG.
Really like where Rendang is at, along with VKG. As long as Rendang can make sure that VKG doesn't third their third, they should be fine, because VKG technically looking to the opposite side of the zone, whereas Rendang is looking up towards the direction of HABNW. It doesn't look like they've been able to find an opening as of yet. Meanwhile, on the other side of the zone, RRQ in a tough spot. Pricey, the last one left alive, and ends up getting taken out.
BKG only 7 points away from match point 2, by the way. They could hit match point this game. This would be very interesting going into game number 6, considering they won game 6 on match point yesterday in scrim. So they know where or how to play these situations. VKG now, though, they have their hands full. They need to stay alive for this to be able to work.
They'll come down to at least break line of sight on a couple. That doesn't stop people from spraying through, though, and finding connection. We had talked about this long uphill rotate that they were going to have earlier, that they still face here now. I really like this elevated angle for Relove DCG. They'll be able to take pop shots at a couple of teams. It's like shooting fish in a barrel here, but they're not going to be able to find any knocks.
S8UL is just getting so much damage right now, as we can see. He has the best angle. The swarm comes out as well. He realizes there's not many left standing. He's going to move in to try and clean up the last member. He does get it. There's now only 2 squads left alive, and DCG win game number 5 here in our match point regional finals.
Well, yeah, I like that elevated position. They were able to poke and prod onto both sides and slowly whittle away at all of the teams. The good news is that puts them up to within contention, or should I say striking distance of match point. The bad news is it's still only striking distance, because they had been struggling through the course of the first 4 games. So even off of a pretty solid 19-point win, they're still only sitting at 32 points here, Stoney.
Very interesting game, that is for sure. Match winners right there. DCG with a 7-kill victory. That's a nice little 19-point game for the boys. DCG with a 19-point game. Rendang also with a 19-point game. HABNW 3rd. VK Gaming 4th. Aram in the top 5. And that is how it looks after that game. We're going to have a look at the series overall, though, going into game number 6. And I think we still only have 1 match point team.
We should, if my math does serve me right. Yeah, VKG close. They'll be at 46, as they will technically also overtake S8UL at this point. But it's Dog Red in first, still the only team on match point. VKG, S8UL, Wolves, and Aram. And now that makes things a little more interesting for a team like Victory Esports, because they now see themselves slowly moving down the list. Again, Victory Esports, a team that came in today just outside the bubble in 10th. And if they continue to struggle to put up points, while teams like RRQ, PXX, Gen G, and the likes just behind them at least continue to add to their tally, what looked like a day that could very well send them off to Paris could end up being their demise.
Yes, we need to know now, everyone else would like to know, is if Valkyrie is finally off the board. And well, she definitely is. 17 times she was picked in that game, and it does look like Mad Maggie was very close by as well. So that is Valkyrie gone moving forward, Q, which makes the bands pretty interesting, and the legend compositions moving forward very, very interesting.
Yeah, it should be really intriguing, especially after this next game, because generally when we go into game number 6, we're always like, well, if there was another game, this legend would be banned. But unless we go into game number 6 and Dog Red is able to pick up a W as we move back to the back-to-back for Storm Point, we will indeed be seeing that ban coming into play for the following of the compositions here. So we do see through 5 maps thus far. We've had 5 different winners. And matter of fact, I would say other than S8UL, a lot of unlikely contenders coming out on top through these first 5.
Yeah, I feel like for Aram and even Dog Red to be as aggressive and strong that they've been so far is very, very something that we're not used to seeing, because Aram, I think they're only 14 points away from match point as well. So they had no pushovers today. They're looking pretty good here in the games for our regional finals. But Q, you're right, we are heading back to Storm Point, which means we got back-to-back Storm Point games, which means back to Storm Point POIs.
And you'll see a lot of teams prioritizing Storm Point, and I think part of that is because of where it landed within the draft. It is indeed, we'll be here for maps both 6 and 7, which is generally where we start to see match point games, at least online, typically start to wrap up that 7, 8, and 9 range. So we'll see a lot of those. You look at the map picks both on the left and right side of your screen, a lot of those teams utilizing those, especially top 10 picks, looking at, EDG, Havoc, Gen G, RQ, even VKG, right? Like all of them prioritizing Storm Point. So we'll see if things end here or if they end up going past after the next 2 games.
Have to wait and see. We'll go and have a look at the heat map one more time and see where majority of the Storm Point zones finish. And it was a lot in that Jurassic side of things, Q, by the last time I looked at it.
Which would be interesting. Dog Red landing in that area. And right where I just saw Dog Red's little square is literally where it's brightest on the map here for Storm Point. So definitely going to be keeping an eye on the ring information here early. Moving in to not only map number 6, but map number 7 as well, as we are going to be going into the back-to-back, as we do have that snake draft sort of style here with the maps, and we are playing all 3 on the day. And not to beat a dead horse, because this is probably going to be the last chance that we do get to say it, but this is going to be probably the easiest of a chance that Dog Red has to completing their series and coming out on top. Because when you look at some of the teams that are threatening now to cross over that match point threshold, it's a lot of your heavy hitters here, Stoney.
Yeah, it is. And like we said, there's a lot of teams that are starting to really warm up. That is teams like VK Gaming, who were just in that top 5 situation as well. And I mean, if you have teams like DCG who are starting to wake up to things, they know how to win on games like that, scary. And S8UL, I mean, they're been pretty quiet since game number 2, but they're a team that do pick it up very quickly as well, even though they've been quiet in the last couple of games.
And even for them, keep in mind a handful of points here in game number 6, and all that matters moving forward is that you're already on match point, right? I know you and I always like to have the talk during match point, for the teams who already picked up a win. How much harder is it to pick up that second win? S8UL obviously would be added into that conversation, but a team that we also know has the ability, again, with the experience of S8UL, Sharky, Legacy, Jesco, they're a team you wouldn't be surprised to pick up multiple wins in a day. So while they have been quiet, you know that they still have that ability to pop off as long as they ain't heard that bell yet,
100%. I mean, Wolves Esports as well. I mean, they haven't been quiet, but they've been quiet, if that makes sense. Like, they're 37 points, but they have been pretty quiet on that back end of it with the top 5 situations and being in that top 3. So as it looks like everyone is ready to get into game number 6, it does look like we are, well, as we all know, only heading into game 6 with one team on match point, which is, like you said, probably more daunting for Dog Red being the only team on match point. I feel like there's way more pressure on Dog Red to get this win. I feel like when there's 7, 10 teams, you kind of feel, I don't know, a little bit more relaxed in that situation compared to being the only team on match point.
Yeah, I mean, right now, all eyes are on you. It even felt like in that last game, it looked like maybe Orchid had pushed into Power Grid a little quicker, expecting to see if they could take that fight, right? Try to take the one lone team that's on match point and put them back into the lobby and extend the series a little bit longer. That's still going to be the case. However, I think worth noting, the later it gets, the harder it is to remember or keep in mind what type of composition teams are running, right? Like, the later you get, you're going to be running into, we're now at the point, especially after this game, you get into game 7, 8, and 9, teams haven't had to put together compositions with this many banned legends. So one, fun in the sense for us as viewers, we get to see what these talented players are putting together, but 2, it makes the job that much tougher for the teams that are out on the server as well. But you were talking about this graphic right here. We get to take a look at teams who have won on certain maps. We're going towards Storm Point. Technically, this is the map that Gen G has found the most success on. They're still a bit of ways from match point, however.
Yeah, Dog Red have had a win on this map as well. It seems like they've only won on Storm Point and Olympus. So Well, we have 2 chances now for Dog Red to get another win on this map. And the crazy thing for S8UL, they have not won a single game on Storm Point.
I think the crazy thing to me looking at this graphic is with as consistent as S8UL is, I would have expected them to have more wins. Granted, we only have 2 teams that have picked up 4, so it's not like they're like lacking in that department. I don't know. I just would have expected some of our heavier hitters. I feel like in the past have had more game wins, but I think that also just goes to show, we mentioned earlier on the day how that that gap at the top has seemingly closed. I think we're even seeing a lot of that on this graphic here.
Yeah, I mean, Gen G as well. Look how many times they have had a win on Storm Point. So being the team with the most wins on Storm Point. I mean, Havoc close to them as well with 2. Relove DCG and TYK. So it's an interesting stat. There's a lot of obviously stats that go into Apex as a whole. And well, I do think this one is a good one when it comes down to the match point side of things, just because you need a win queue to win. So it is not as easy as it seems, as we can see on here with this graphic, how hard it actually is to get a victory.
I think the other thing that's interesting when you look at the 2 teams that have been able to pick up 4 map wins, they tell 2 very different stories going into today. Wolves, they had 4 map wins. Well, they entered into regional finals the most secured of any team. The other team was Gen G, and while they do technically sit inside the bubble, they still need to be able to perform today. So, and especially where you think, or where you consider where they sit right now, heading into game number 6, kind of middle of the pack. Gen G is going to be feeling a lot of pressure here going into this back-to-back on Storm Point.
But they are. They are. Let's see where this zone goes. Are we going to have a Cedo, maybe Mill zone here? Or we're going to have a Barometer, maybe Jurassic. And oh, it is going to be a Barometer zone, and that is Victory Esports in a pretty good spot here, Q, to set up in the main building before the rest of the squads start to make their way down.
Generally, we see that's where those squads like to be able to post up if you land there and you get to pull that direction. So we'll see if they'll be able to get looted and booted and be able to secure that top floor in time. I think the question then becomes, who's going to be able to pick up some of those other spots that are close? I mean, for VK Gaming, Wolves Esports, they won't have too far to rotate, and both of them in a position with a decent game. They could also put themselves over that match point. I mean, VKG, they only need like 4 points.
They do. They do. Just a couple of kills and make it to the 15th. Top 15 teams is all they really need here for game number 6. Now, remembering everyone that is watching this amazing Apex Legends, only 1 team on match point, and that is Dog Red. But looks like a Ram landing on a building with a team already in it, and it looks like Chizu doesn't want any part of that right now.
We have seen that when this zone has gone down here towards Barometer, we've seen teams try and play those back buildings. That's actually where Victory Esports is at. Interesting to see Victory Esports prioritize this over that top floor over at Barometer. Maybe they know something I don't, or maybe they're cooking a special recipe that they've got in mind. But again, we've seen a lot of teams find some success from these backmost buildings. Even where ARAM's at should be a decent spot as far as for priority.
I'm hoping ARAM don't see VC, who has DC'd. If they do, hopefully they don't shoot him. Wait and see. Havoc now getting into some action as they're making their way into zone as well. As it seems like Victory Esports are playing more of a south side of Barometer here, Q, instead of this main building that we'd usually see them play if it was a Barometer zone.
If that's part of the reason we see Victory Esports taking that back building at that DC came through before it. Might as well protect your boy versus prioritizing a position with just 2. But it does mean Havoc will be able to play on this top side. Havoc will play on this farther side on the top and catch teams on their rotate on in. Able to take a couple of pop shots. Already been able to upgrade most of their Evos up to that second level of the blue. Looking over at Guzi as well as Ken. Zoyo, not too much to go, but they also have that breach charge, which will help them collect that up just a little bit quicker.
Wolves Esports is who they're looking at the moment. Oh no, sorry, Wolves are on the other side, so it must be another team. Is Rendang making their way into zone as well. So a lot of teams starting to make their way to zone, and it looks like it was VK Gaming that are playing underneath a ram.
We mentioned for VKG, just a couple of points. That's all you need. So understandably, they're going to prioritize that quick rotate on him. That's something we generally see them do anyways, but I am intrigued to see what QQ is doing here with the portal. Are we peeking for a potential pick, or are we actually looking to rotate on out? Looks like the call's the rotate on out, and I think the reason of this is, like we mentioned earlier, we have seen teams finding success on the southern side. It is generally towards the building, though. Under the bridge, I'm not too sure I'm fond of that.
It's a tough spot to play too, I feel, that one. If it does pull towards that south side, you do get a lot of teams starting to make their way to it, and with the bridge and no real Gibby to play behind, yes, obviously the rampart is out here, but the way we're looking, it's going to be pretty hard to try and stay alive. There is a lot of ramparts out here, though. Q, we may see a rampart or Watson ban.
Yeah, I feel like with the way that we had seen both of those legends getting picked leading up in the last couple of games, it will be close. Something tells me, though, there's a good chance it'll be the Watson. We'll have to wait and see. Who knows? There's a chance of it. Whoever gets banned here, it doesn't matter if Dog Red is able to pick themselves up a W. But as we did mention heading into this game, they are the only team that is on that match point. We'll see if anyone's going to be able to join them over the course of, at this point, the next, what, 15-ish minutes or so. But it's still too early to tell. Most of our teams that are currently on the server have found themselves in some way, shape, or form down here towards Barometer, or at least the surrounding kind of lay of the land. No one's, other than Mama Clubs, is basically over on that Note side, but otherwise the other, at least 16 of the rest of the 20 squads, all packed down in Barometer.
Chilling out for now, Q. 20 squads still standing. Edward Gaming making their way into zone, and well, there's a lot to play for, Q, and there is only one team at the moment that can stop all that from happening for a lot of these teams, and they've decided to play towards the main building on that northern side. So have to wait and see how this works out for Dog Red, as it looks like a lot of teams are starting to make their way in, and RRQ, well, that's one of them.
I don't necessarily hate where Dog Red's at. I feel like some of the spots in Barometer where it potentially pulls, especially with right now the double southern side, which makes me think the third ring more than likely going to pull a little bit more towards the north, which makes me think maybe that little island or towards the bridge, or even where EG is at on the opposite side, but still more on the northern half of the POI. So all spots that Dog Red have at least a relatively easy way to be able to rotate to. It is worth noting that Dog Red, one of the very few teams that has been rocking the Sparrow as well.
Yeah, and the Sparrow makes it different. I don't care what anyone says. I do really think that the Sparrow makes such a difference within these rotates for Dog Red. They have obviously the Sparrow ultimate, which is, I think, most annoying ultimate that's in the game, and then also you have the knowledge with the player scans also that you can get rotating in. Now also, you don't need to be close to those beacons to be able to get that knowledge Q. You could shoot them from a fair distance and understand exactly where teams are as well.
Definitely some good info. Definitely some good added benefit of that Sparrow. I feel like we've seen a couple of teams find success off of the Sparrow, but it's definitely a very niche pick, and generally comes out relatively late in our series. So not surprised that if we're going to see it, would be in a game number 6 like we do find ourselves now, and maybe even more so moving forward as we continue to see some of these legends get banned. And we're still a far away from seeing any of our legends getting unbanned, something that's changed this year as opposed to years prior. It does look like, though, it is still going to stay more central, like literally smack dab in barometer, which means most of these teams will continue to feel safe within their positions. So we should still see quite a bit of time with not much fighting.
Here we go, though. DCG versus Gen G here. This is going to be an interesting fight as well. Gen G looking to be aggressive. Now, they're on this crazy legend pick that we seen a couple of splits ago. And, well, they are with the Vantage, Bangalore, and Axel. And as we know, you most likely will never see these three legends get banned. I mean, we might see... Oh my god, movement. Hold on a second. Asia, though, he's like, I do that all the time. I know how to track you, my friend. And, well, Gen G do get one down. They're going to try and get Ziggy back here in a moment's time. But I do like these legends choices because I just don't see these legends getting banned. Only really Axel.
And we haven't really seen much from the Axel here. Oh, Dexter ends up falling down, which means Asia's going to be the last one left alive. I think they had found Anon, right? Yeah, so this does mean that DCG technically may have two burn. What a thermite to be able to open things up. Asia's also has their location given away due to the thermite and Gen G out in the 20th position.
TYK now going up against PXXD. Trying to get the reset here as TYK can hear the reses coming off, and YRV is going to chase down the last member. Oh my god! Jackie Chan getting the job done, and he will get all 3 kills for the boys of PXX. HABNW now with their hands full as round 2 has 30 seconds left before it's fully closed.
One of our few teams out here, or maybe actually possibly our only team? Yeah, I think actually with a quick double check, looking around, our only team rocking the Pathfinder, a very interesting legend select, and definitely I feel like with already having found yourself inside a zone, I'm not really too sure how much value that Pathy is going to give you for the rest of this game. We did mention earlier that for Dog Red, they are still our lone team that's left alive that has themselves on match point, and they're still somewhat isolated in their own building on this eastern side of the zone as well.
Let's have a look and see where this zone pulls, shall we? And well, Dog Red in a pretty good spot here, Q, with this zone pulling more towards the eastern side of Barometer. And well, Victory Esports, who landed here, have gone down towards that southern side without taking, well, most likely the main building that they usually take. HABNW move in early enough to get it, and they're in a pretty good spot.
JBNW will definitely love the position that they are sitting in. You've got Orchid and Havoc that'll also be somewhat happy with the way that the ring is going to be pulling, although I don't think Havoc have that information. Mama Clubs will be one of the teams that has a relatively far rotate. I'll see if they can pick up any KP here along the way. When I say a relatively long locate, I think they're the team that is actually the furthest out east. As S8UL will get taken out, and man, have they struggled since the end of game number 2.
Something's going on with that team at the moment. Lucky for S8UL, they have booked their ticket to EWC, them and Wolves and VKG. But for the rest of the crew, they need to win today. But for S8UL to have 2 games, pretty decent games, then to fall off like they have, they'd be hoping to maybe get into a game 7 and make up for it. See a lot more Sparrows starting to come out as well, Q, as we can see. Wolves getting some good angles. They get another down. They're going to move on in. Beautiful gameplay. There's one man left standing. But Wen needs to be careful as Yubi does get eliminated. But Aram help the cause here and move back towards where they think zone will be. But for a lot of these teams on the western side of the zone, Q, they're going to figure out they got a fair distance to rotate here now to get into zone number 5.
It's going to be tough news for teams like Aram, as they will have to rotate all the way off towards that east. I don't know. Rom realizes how close they are to another squad in their vicinity. Surely they'll know with 13 teams left alive that there's at least someone that is close. They might not necessarily have the information, but meanwhile, for teams like Wolves, we talked about the ability for them to potentially put themselves on match point. They now find themselves 9 points away. The problem is they've got quite a bit of a ways to go between where they are and where they need to be.
S8UL eliminated. That is crazy to say out loud, really. How good they have been to get into that top 10 spot nearly every game. They've just really started to struggle a little bit here in these games at the moment. EDG get eliminated. Havoc in a really good spot here at the moment as well, Q. As we can see, Dog Red also in zone at the moment, but with 14 squads still left alive, a lot of teams are going to start looking to move towards this position.
Dog Red are looking towards the remaining 2 players that are left alive here for EDG. Those Skynades find a little bit. Now, surely they should look to be able to push off of the back of that. Yeah, especially off of finding a knock there. And there it is. It will be EDG that will be eliminated. We're now in top 13.
13 squads now left alive. As we can see, teams starting to make their way towards zone. And we're going to see a lot of teams figuring out where to play. HABNW in a really good spot here as well, Q, as well. They're looking down the sights towards where Dog Red are.
End up taking that fight. HABNW, the one problem with having rotated on in, they haven't been able to find very many people to take pop shots at. They are still sitting on that triple blue. PXX, they've had a somewhat quiet day today. They're sitting down in 8th with 34 points. I guess you could say quietly consistent. They've been plugging and chugging, just not enough for us to really notice them. They do get a decent game here in game number 6, though. They could join the conversation of those teams on match point. Earlier today, we mentioned how Titan Esports Club probably need a top 2 if they're going to be looking for a chance to punch their way into Paris. They've also struggled to put some points together.
Wolves Esports also getting eliminated. Look at Dog Red though now. They have their hands full. There's only 1 man, 2 mans left standing. BCG get eliminated. They will be able to get back up for 5th, which means Dog Red now get a chance to reset. 11 squads left standing. BCG nearly sending this game to a game 7.
Good news for Dog Red, where they're at inside this building, since it's outside of the zone and not too many teams are directly next door. They will be able to get a free reset. The problem is when this zone starts closing in, all of these teams inside of buildings pretty well all lose their coverage. There's not much to play around, even when it comes to like natural sort of coverage from the elements. So these teams are going to have to build their own. The good news is most of the squads do have the ramparts to be able to make something happen. The question is, who's going to be able to be the first to kind of plant their flag, and will they be able to hold the line?
We'll wait and see as Team Orchard, they need to figure out their way into zone as well. They do have the Wraith and the Hands. We do have Havoc also trying to figure out their way into zone. As we can see, a lot of teams starting to make their way into where they think zone will be. Titan Esports Club get eliminated. HABNW get the job done. Havoc move to the roof on top of HABNW, and they look pretty good at the moment as well. Dog Red, though, they need to rotate in here, Q, and this is where it gets really interesting for our match point team.
And what's interesting for Dog Red, though, is they're a little isolated. Over on this side of the zone, majority of the teams are on the western side. Unfortunately, the team that's closest to them is our Q, so we'll have to keep an eye and see if that fight ends up breaking out soon. VK Gaming, they were one of our teams that we had mentioned had the potential of putting themselves onto match point. Aren't quite there yet. They're on the verge, but still need to find a way to pick up one more.
They do, and it is VK Gaming still standing. Orchard now going to get eliminated as well. We are now down to our final 7 squads, and Dog Red, well, they're still standing. They're getting shot in the backside though. There's only 1 man left alive, and it is RRQ going up against Dog Red, and Dog Red will get eliminated. We are going to a game 7, and VKG is still standing, and they are also heading into game 7 on match point.
might very well be the only other team that does eclipse that match point threshold as well, especially depending on how the rest of this lobby play out. PXX looks like they'll have to move forward, and they should be able to get Jackie Chan back onto their feet. They could very well be able to reset underneath the bridge. We had talked about for Havoc on this second floor. They had a team that wasn't directly under them. That is still the case, and that is VK Gaming and off to their right.
APAC still alive as well, needing to be careful as VK Gaming are starting to make some noise. And well, QQ still standing, hasn't done much this game, but as we know, it gets down to the final stages of these kind of zones. You need that man still out there as QQ, one of the most dangerous players in our region. Havoc now down to a duo as well. HABNW down to a solo. We have only 5 squads left alive, and guess who else is still standing, Q? That is RRQ.
RRQ, one of the few trios that is still all put together in full health as well. Pricey trying to wrap up this fight quick, fast, and in a hurry, and it will be HABNW that is now out, now sending shots across the way, as I believe that was Havoc that they were shooting shots at, but it's VK Gaming who pull up on them.
VK Gaming sitting in a top 3 situation, looking to try and get the victory here. PXX, I think, is still standing as well, Q. Yes, they are. PXX still are, and they're very close to match point. I think if PXX win this game, we may go into game number 7 with 3 teams on match point.
And guess what? VK Gaming right now breaking into a fight with Havoc. VK Gaming has already lost one, which means PXX should be able to pull up. They've got the Axel in the back pocket as well, and they should be able to pull on up and get a clean third party, meaning that PXX comes out on top and puts themselves onto match point, and that right there is a big dub for this trio here from China.
And PXX will head into game 7 on match point as well, which means we have 3 teams heading into 7th game, Q, able to finish it right now.
Talked about the importance for Dog Red these last 2 games of trying to find a way to push your way across the finish line before more teams join you on that match point. And now that time has come to a close. PXX joins VKG alongside Dog Red on match point, and a lot of that due to a 24-point game. PXX, we've talked about it a couple of times throughout the course of the season, a team that with their experience, you know they have the potential. You always just wait for that pop-off moment.
Insane game for PXX. Let's go and have a look at the match summary. As we can see it there, PXX with a 24-point game, and that is going to put them into match point as well. And well, we can go and have a look at the 3 teams that are on match point here, moving into the 7th game of this afternoon. And well, Dog Red will be leading the way for now, but they are joined by VK Gaming and PXX for teams that are able to finish this right now. Oh, Aram sitting 4th, S8UL rounding out the top 5. Wolves Esports very close as well to S8UL. I guess we'll go and see which legend now is banned going in to our 7th game.
Watson, I feel like we saw a lot of that out on the server. Yeah, it was going to be between that or Rampart, and 1 extra Watson means that there will no longer be Watson fences or pylons out on the server. So first controller now officially taken off the board. Who's going to be our first skirmisher that ends up getting banned at some point over the course of the day? Only time will tell. But now that we know who's banned here, I guess let's take a look at our top kill getters of the day so far or so.
I'll have a look at our kill and damage leaders, and well, it is going to be Gap Wang leading the way after 6 with 13 kills. VKG with 12, Sharky with 12, Killer Pods with 11, and QQ also with 11. We'll go and have a look at our damage leaders, and well, No Name as usual leading the way with 9k damage. LQ Dud with 8.3, Fuffa 5th with 7.8, QQ 4th, and Wen rounding out our top 5. But that is how it looks so far after our first 6 games, Q, which means we have another little break here in between game 6 and 7. Yes, you got me. I had to do it. Well, I can't. After game 6 and 7, I don't have to say that bloody thing again. So we can 8 and 9. But we will be right back here, chat. Q, is there anything you want to tell them to go and get? You know, anything little? It's been a big day.
Make sure you guys get in the make sure you guys get in the giveaways for those Apex coins! Exclamation point APAC South in chat, so you can get a look as far as that. But also, yeah, we are 6 games into this. We don't know how long this is going to be, so make sure you guys are taking care of yourself as well. Grab yourself some water, maybe grab yourselves a quick schnickety snack. But we still got some more action to get to. We'll be going back to Storm Point on the other side of this break.
it is going to be pulling more towards wall, which is good for teams like Ubi and Team Orchid. We haven't really got things going yet today, Q, which means they can set up home pretty early on here. The best thing as well for PXX is, well, they get the hill side of things here near Zeus Station. They can walk themselves into wall as well and find themselves home. And if they can just hold that side where Zeus is, I feel like they're in a pretty good spot here moving into a game number 7.
Curious to see if Gen G opts to push up towards Zeus first. Generally, we see them kind of more counter rotate so they can play the edge. But if I'm Gen G, I might honestly think about pushing up to Zeus first. You know that you're landing right next to a team that's on match point. You take them out, increase your chances of being able to extend the series a little bit longer. We did mention for Team Orchid, not having the best of days thus far. Right now, you're kind of hoping that the rest of the lobby helps you out in the sense of, one, helping remove those 3 match point teams. But more than that as well, we were talking about how there was that like increase of points that are accrued for regional finals. Team Orchid goes into today sitting at 76 points, and they were in the 8th spot. Technically, they're 7 points ahead of EDG, who's that 9th spot, who's probably the most at risk, especially if, let's say, a Dog Red wins today. But the good news for Orchid is a lot of the teams that are below them are also struggling. Teams like Victory Esports, Ubi, BCG, even DCZ. So as long as those teams don't suddenly pop off, they're still feeling somewhat safe.
I hope so. I'd love to see my boys heading to EWC Paris. As we can see, though, we have 20 squads still figuring out their way into zone as we are heading towards the northern side of Storm Point. And, well, we do love a good wall game, don't we, Q? And as we know, a lot of teams are pretty used to wall zones, and they'll be making their way towards there as we speak. Edward Gaming doing that as well. VKG also looking to try and make their way in, but we'll have to see as they're in Jurassic, in between the middle of a fair few teams here, Q, and it looks like, I think QQ maybe just wanting that gold wingman.
It's like a piece of candy just on the other side of the window for a kid. Like, I want it. Give it to him, and watch out if he ends up getting it in his hands. That's for sure. Victory Esports, they had a good start to their day today. However, they're at risk of maybe potentially going out early again, but it will be Victory Esports who does find the first knock. VC will eventually be traded out. That's their Axel, which means they won't have an ability to close the gap. But hopefully for them, it's the same on the other side as VC gets back on their feet.
BK Gaming were maybe in a little bit of trouble before HAPNW decided to join the party, which this might kind of give BK Gaming a chance to move back in, but Victory Esports now in a little bit of trouble here, Q, as HAPNW decide to move on in to the action. They do get down 1, so now they have the advantage in the move in. The R9 in the hand. Ahoy, he forgot to reload his nemesis. Blackroad getting down 1. Now there is only 1 man left alive, and well, that is Blackroad going in to try and finish it, but it'll be pretty tough going here in this little bit of this altercation in Jurassic.
Yeah, they're stuck on the stairs though, so that should mean between Tasting Blood and Black Road, they should be able to push through and clean things up. Wait, who is that just pulled up to the third party here to add and mix into things? No, it's just the second player for Victory Esports. Wraps back around. That is going to allow for Victory Esports to regain control of the situation, and they're going to take HAPNW out.
That is a crazy change of events there for the boys of HAPNW. They thought they had full control of that fight for a second there, Q. And all of a sudden, well, they get put down pretty quickly as Victory Esports are looking to try and get their day now going as well. And then we were talking about it. We looked at the ALGS overall standings of where it was before the game started today, and they're sitting 9th, Victory Esports. They need to get it going.
Victory Esports has been in a tough spot, and especially because the way today started surely felt like things were off to a right go, and then all of a sudden they've just been off to pretty well a standstill, it feels like, as far as ascending their point total over the course of the last 2 or 3 games or so. We've been talking over the course of the last 2 or 3 games here now that Dog Red has had the potential to be able to end things. They're now one of 3 teams who find themselves on match point, and they got themselves a decent cut as far as the position inside of zone. BCG was one of the teams that we talked about on the outside of the bubble looking in a relatively slow day thus far. They need to use Game 7 to pick things up. Maybe an early team fight with Mama Clubs is the way to do it.
And they will get it done. It was pretty sketchy there for a second. 2 going down. I was like, hold on a second, but they do get the job done. With 18 squads left standing, we see a lot of teams now trying to make their way to zone, and we'll be able to show zone 2 as we speak. See where teams are currently on the map, and it is definitely going to be pulling into wall here for game number 7.
Pulling up towards wall, and this means a lot of those teams up on the northern side going to be perfectly happy with the situations that they find themselves in. Teams that are still needing to find a spot are the likes of RRQ. They will be north enough and should be in these next at least 2 rings. We'll have to wait and see how it plays out from there. The question becomes, the rampart wall is going to be enough to build your own coverage on this side of the hill.
I think the closest teams to them might be no, well, I thought it was PXX, but it does look like Rendang have taken the hillside near nuts, so we'll have to wait to see how that goes. VKG also trying to get themselves into zone, but they have run into TYK pretty close towards where they need to go here. Oh my god, I thought Sato was about to fall off the map, but it got for Sparrow, shall we say here. With 18 squads left standing, it does look like a Ram also trying to fight their way into zone with Titan Esports very close by.
Mentioned Titan Esports Club probably also needs a win. They've been relatively quiet on the day. If there's anyone who's going to be looking to potentially remove those bottom 2 teams out of the top 9, Aram probably has the best chances. They came into today in 14th, and they've got a pretty decent day cooking thus far, especially with the way some of those other like mid-tier teams, those teams in the middle third of the pack are currently having. Seems of the likes, especially looking at the likes of Rendang as well, also kind of sitting low in that points department.
They are. Rendang, though, a team that like to get a couple of quiet wins also, Q. And the fact that they're in a pretty good spot at the moment, sitting here with 3 purple shields. Well, they're in a pretty good spot. RRQ also now just going to AFK for a little bit here in their spot with their rampart walls. And better go and have a look at PXX, who I think is... Oh, okay, they've decided to rotate way away from where they were and try and get their shields up, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I was trying to remember if I had seen them falling in the kill feed or not, if maybe they had to go back and get the teammates in. I don't think they have. Definitely interesting as they have sitting relatively low as far as their damage as well. But you know what? I mean, we'll have to wait and see if potentially this is just the right recipe. You were close. Maybe you didn't want to put yourself too deep on in. Maybe you feel more comfortable playing from that edge. I mean, it's what's helped them find a lot of success thus far through the split. And we kind of always talk about sometimes that changing of the strategy just because you're close to winning can sometimes be more of a detriment than a help.
Edward Gaming now relaxing for a minute as Dog Red are the closest team to them as well. So still a lot of teams left standing here, Q. As we can see, 50 seconds left before the zone does start to close. And we're going to see a lot of teams starting to realize it is a heavy wall zone here for game number 7. And we still have all 3 match point teams still standing as well.
Next zone close in from rings 3 and 4. They're going to be where things start to get a little spicy, at least for the probably third of the lobby that find themselves outside of the walls. The outskirt of the wall POI itself. Those teams are going to struggle a little bit more than you would really like. I like the idea that VKG has inside the game, inside the caves, maybe looking to jump on someone rotating on through. However, they will eventually need to move just a little bit. They have a couple of teams out on their side. Dog Red, one of the 3 that you had mentioned, that are sitting on that match point, and all 3 players for them still left alive at the moment.
Have you noticed, though, how much the game changes for the teams that are on match point? You've got VK Gaming, who really don't care about what's happening at the moment. They're just chilling out. You've got PXX, who have decided to neg rotate out of zone. And then you have Dog Red, who are just AFK as well in a spot on the outskirts of wall. So even though it's kind of slow going, it does just seem like when you hit match point, you see teams change a lot in what they do.
Your mentioning of PXX was almost like a curse to them. I was watching the kill feed as soon as you started talking about them. I think one, maybe two of them got knocked as they're currently working in the actual zone itself. They're getting chased down by Victory Esports. You can see how far they're willing to run into the storm to try and stay alive, but it is not going to be enough. Victory Esports take out one of our 3 teams that are currently on match point. So that does mean there is still a chance as far as for 2 squads to end thing here. One of them being Dog Red, who probably needs it more than anyone.
So, such an interesting decision by PXX, to be honest. They've landed in Zeus Station. They have now rotated out of Zeus Station, but decided to rotate back to Zeus Station in round 3, where it hurts. And they will die for it. So with 17 squads left alive, we see a lot of teams still getting into beautiful shots by probably the hardest name to say. I'm just going to say the Ray from EDG as they get rid of a Ram here in game number 7.
Well, Ram going out here will feel good for teams like that Orchid or EDG, who we had mentioned earlier, had them sitting on their tails. Victory Esports, though, to go out in that 6th spot. And RRQ looks like they're down to just a solo. VKG, one of the 2 squads currently left alive, and still have the ability to end things here in game number 6. Oh, and they're not going to be able to get Casa up in time. The good news is they will be able to stick the box and get them back into play right there, which is a bit of a different story than RRQ's solo.
Here we go, though. Wolves Esports getting into some more action. They're going up against BCG. And, well, BCG now down to a duo. Wolves Esports looking pretty scary at the moment. Beautiful wingman shots coming out. As we can see, Wen just needs to hit one more. Maya's caster cursed him after that. A lot of wingman shots after I said the beautiful one behind on the back, but it does look like BCG will still get eliminated as Wolves Esports are starting to cook here in match 7.
Talk about a caster's curse, my boys. Like, and as we can see, Wen couldn't see a freaking thing, couldn't hit a single shot. That's really unfortunate here, but we'll sit back on board with Dog Red. We did mention one of our 2 teams that are still left alive on match point, the other one being VKG, and they're in quite different scenarios. VKG just outside the ring, should be able to move their way on in, but they're sitting on that triple purple. Is Blue Tees over on that side of Dog Red. However, Dog Red have been able to find themselves a little bit of safety in the zone, which is a bit different story than VKG.
For VKG, they have Gen G, the closest team to them. They also are in the middle of Rendang, so pretty tough going here for the boys of VKG, but also pretty tough going for Gen G here to try and rotate in towards this zone. As we can see, though, this is where it gets a little bit tough for teams as they need to rotate in. The best thing for VKG is the shield advantage they have over Gen G.
VKG will be able to at least hold them off a little bit. They'll get a little bit of assistance, I do believe, as well as that's from Rendang, I do believe that is. It's just north of them that will also be looking over the direction of Gen G. Here's Gen G trying to move in as quick as possible. They do have that Axel to be able to move just a little faster, but Asia's does eventually fall. And if there's anybody of these 3 that you hate to see falling first, it's him.
Yeah, but they still have Dexter left standing, who is quite scary, as we know. Beautiful nades coming out. This may be VKG getting eliminated right now as we speak. Ziki on the vantage Only one man left standing for VK Gaming. They get eliminated. Gen G get the job done, but I don't like their chances of staying alive as Wolves Esports are looking to clean up Gen G, and that they will. That means there's only one team left on match point, Q, and that is Dog Red.
I told you guys earlier, don't count them out. The trio here of Fafa, Thief, Kilopause, and Gapwang have that firepower to them, and they've kind of isolated themselves on the southern side. The question is, will they be able to move on up into this next zone? DCG, they've also got quite a bit of a rotate. They're taking a fight here with TYK. They've been able to find a knock on the one. They're threatening to knock a second. The conduit helping, though, over on the TYK side of things.
Oh, a bit of Bo Nix about those caustic throws. I bloody love it. And notice how I said Bo Nix up the Broncos. TYK now trying to stay alive, but this caustic gas is seeming to be a little bit too strong. As we can see, Wolves Esports get eliminated. We're down to 8 squads, and with that, Sparrow Ultimate gives DCG the info of where the last man for TYK was sitting, and just like that, DCG looking to go back to back. Oh, sorry, not back to back, but 2 in the last 3 here for our games.
Would be huge for him for sure. A team that is on the outside of the bubble, if they could find a way to put themselves in contention, even of just the podium, with the way that a couple of the teams in front of them are currently would finish, they could very well sneak up into that 9th spot. That does put more pressure on the likes of Orchid. I believe this is the first time that we've seen them threatening for a top 5 scenario, but they've still got to find a way to stay alive. They're on the high ground, which should give them a benefit here.
S8UL still alive as well. As we can see, a lot of teams still alive. 7 squads still standing. There is one team, like we said, chat, that is still alive, that it is on match point. That is Dog Red, and they're in a really good spot here, Q, on this eastern side of zone. The problem is, though, with teams like Orchid and S8UL still alive in that building, they are the first team to get looked at here on this outside.
It really all depends on which direction this final zone pulls, because yeah, you mentioned everybody else, Havoc and all of these squads are on the other side of the wall, but with this pulling just to the wall, that actually now very well could work in Red's favor, because these other 5 teams that are all left on this side of that barrier will be looking at one another first. So it does mean of the likes of S8UL, Orchid, and DCG, they will have to take that fight here first. It looks like, however, there's a chance that Rendang could be looking to send on a Dog Red.
There's only one man left standing for Rendang. Beautiful Sparrow ults coming out here as well. As we can see, I'm pretty sure it's Noel saying maybe just trying to get some sneaky little angles, but we have 6 squads left standing, and it does look like they need to try and keep themselves alive for now. 6 squads left here, Q. As we can see, Dog Red, our only match point team, still alive.
And they are still the only team over on that eastern side of this little wall as well. You've got the Rampart to be able to amplify damage as those teams over to the west have to close their way on in. You mentioned that Sparrow ult and just how much of a nuisance that can be as well. The important thing is you have to stay on your feet, and that's a big knock. Can they get the reset is the question.
It's S8UL, I think, that is looking at them and getting the shots to hit. We are now down to our final 6 squads. RRQ looking to try and stay alive. S8UL also trying to stay alive. They do get rid of that, and just like that, RRQ will be eliminated. We are now down to our final 5 squads. Orchard on the height here, looking pretty good, Q. We'll go and have a look at Dog Red as they will get eliminated. And we are going now to a game number 8. Back to Olympus, and oh my god! Sharky moves on in. Just like that, Orchard are in some trouble, and S8UL, the team that have been quiet since game number 2, looking good to try and get the victory here in game 7.
We told y'all to not expect this squad to continue to be quiet, and that has most certainly been the case. DCG will have the man advantage here. That caustic gas will force them on out, and DCG take game number 7, and off of the back of that, they also put themselves on match point.
We now heading into a game 8 with a lot of teams, I think, on match point. Q, this is where it gets a little bit interesting for a lot of these teams.
Especially of the likes of Dog Red, who need a win in order to take themselves off to Paris. And now for some of the teams on the bubble, you now have another team that's outside of the bubble on match point, like DCG, a big 26-point win to put them over that threshold. Is there a chance that we see Roy back on land?
Oh man, that would be insane, right? DCG, Roy back in land once again. 26-point game for DCG. S8UL hit match point as well. Rendang third, Team Orchid sit fourth, and Dog Red round out the top 5. We're going to have a look at our series overall, and I think we have 5 teams on match point going into game number 8. Wolves Esports are 1 point away from match point, as we can see. Aram sitting and Rendang pretty close as well. Team RRQ starting to warm up a bit, and also Victory Esports here in game number 7. We're going to have a look at what legend is getting banned, and will we see now maybe an actual ban? We'll have to wait and see. And it is.
Ooh, enough of the Axel to take the Axel off of the board. I guess that's technically the second time we've seen that here in APAC South. It only took 7 rounds of bans, but what's also, I think, more interesting, I didn't realize we had that many Sparrows out in the server. We had seen a couple on our screens for sure. There's a very good chance we could very well be seeing our first Sparrow ban heading into game number 8.
That we will. I mean, first skirmisher to get banned. Usually we're used to seeing Alter getting banned a lot more, but with Alter still out here. Yeah, well, yeah, true. You had me thinking about it for a second.
I don't even know who that is anymore.
I was like, hold on a second, is that not his name? But Ultra and Rafe still out here, and I mean, we have seen now Pathfinder starting to get picked a little bit as well from a couple of teams. So it's going to get interesting if we get to that game 9-10 situation, what it looks like moving forward here, Q, as we will go and have a look at our map scene overlays. And well, PXX got the last win on Storm Point. That means we are over on match 7, and that is DCG getting the victory before we head back to Olympus.
Well, that means for teams who favor Storm Point, you gotta hope this thing goes on for quite a bit, because you ain't gonna see it again until match 12. I'm looking at you, Genji. Y'all hurting your boy. I picked y'all, and unfortunately didn't pick up much in games 6 and 7. But yeah, even some of our other teams who favor Storm Point, we now won't see it again for 4 more. We're off to Olympus here next, Tony. But before we go off to Olympus, I guess, do we want to take a look at, see if any of our players have moved in our top 5 kills yet?
Let's go and have a look at the top 5 kills and damage leaders. And well, Gap Wang is going to hit the front. Soul Sharky sitting 2nd. Killer Paws 3rd. I think that's Shayo from DCG moving into the top 5 as well. VKG, LQ Dud doing God's work out here also. And well, for the damage leaders, of course, he is sitting on top. That is No Name, the best player in our region by far. Fat for 5th sitting 2nd. LQ Dud 3rd. BKG QQ sitting 4th, and Wen in the top 5. And when I say the top player in our region, I feel like his stats proves that for us, Q.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at not only just the kills, which is far and wide away from anybody. No Name himself has more kills than some teams in our region have as a trio. But I think the big thing that really stands out is the differential as well, right? Like, it's one thing to be able to put up a bunch of damage, but it's another thing to be able to put up a bunch of damage and still be able to stay on your feet, whether that means not needing to be revived from your teammates, meaning they can output more damage, or just helping your teammates get back to your feet and staying as a full 3 as well. No Name really is the best in APAC South when it comes to doing his thing.
And well, when we're talking about the top 5 players, it comes with the top 5 teams. And so far, out of those top 5 teams, Q, 3 of them on match point heading into match number 8.
3 of them sitting on that match point. Wolves relatively close, and we know Gen G has that pop-off potential. I do still feel like with the way the rest of the lobby has been playing out, they'll still probably feeling somewhat safe. But still, again, I feel like Gen G in a spot today that we have seen them through a majority of the split here, Stoney, where it's like, we know you have the potential to pop off, but like, where is it at? Because we just haven't seen it.
I mean, for Wolves to only be 1 point away as well from match point, this is a scary team. They've already had 4 wins in our split. Out of our top 5 teams, they are one of the teams with 4 wins on the split overall, which means they're due for a win here, Q. And I feel like it's not too far away because they seem to be getting themselves in the right position. Just doesn't seem like they can get that victory. And, well, we are heading back to Olympus. That means that we have Olympus POIs to look at before we get into game number 8.
And it is worth noting, Wolves do have the most points, or should I say, have averaged the most points and the best placement on Olympus. So, I mean, if there's any place for them to get cooking, or at least make sure that they can get up over that 50-point threshold, it is here on Olympus itself. They're landing at Estates, which, you know, not nearly as much of a contested drop as it was once way back in the day, back in maybe some of your ranked lobbies. But I feel like for them, you know, being more central on the map, they'll be comfortable with wherever the zone opts to go.
I just want to see something and see if this is refreshing after every game and if it changes. So we'll have to wait. And it does. So as we can see, if the overall standing stops now, Dog Red are just in that top 8 queue, sitting in a top position, which means they most likely have to finish first or second to make their way to Paris. For teams like RRQ and Havoc, they are only 3 points in front at the moment as well. So for Havoc, where are they sitting overall, Havoc?
Not very well. They're sitting down like bottom 3, I think, or something like that.
Sitting in 12th position. So
they have a good last game. Yeah.
So Victory Esports look like they might be on the out. Relove DCG, they're making their way up as well. And Dog Red also making their way in. This is where it gets interesting, Q, because if it stops now, after this game, DCG will make their way to Paris, as that is our top 9 right there.
I think the other thing to keep in mind for Dog Red is even if you don't win match point, that second place, you still drop. I think it's a difference of 6 points, right? I think right now, essentially the way that this is reading on the website, if I remember right from last week, is it's reading as if the teams finish in the position that they currently sit in, right? So if Dog Red falls to second, they go from the points that you earn from first, and obviously that auto bid. And I think it's like a 5 or 6 point difference between first and second with that inflation, which does mean there is a very good chance that, like we mentioned earlier, it is win or go home. And if it is a win or go home scenario, it's like you get second, you're literally the first team sent home, which is so tough.
This is very interesting. Very cool that we have the live standings as well to be able to show you guys. And it is getting down to it here, Q, right to where it matters. And if this heads to the eastern side of this map, S8UL are in a pretty good position.
They'll have Prio, PXX not too far to rotate on in from Elysium as well. And remember, they are one of our teams that is also onto that match point. I think the thing that I am going to be most curious on is looking down towards that southeastern side. Gen G, technically, we'll get Prio on the rotate on in, landing down at Summers University. But if there's one thing we know about this trio from Gen G, is they generally counter-rotate. They could be going on the hunt for some KP here.
Going to be interesting. As we can see, a lot of teams starting. I feel like we're going to see probably the most teams we've seen alive in Zone 4 to 5 here on an Olympus game. I mean, we had that one weekend where we had Rift back to back to back, and there was just a crazy amount of teams left standing. But we can see Victory Esports already making their way towards Grow Towers here for match number 8.
Keeping in mind, Victory Esports, when we are looking through those standings, they are one of the teams that is just on the outside of the bubble. Surely, I would imagine if they aren't keeping an eye on it, they got a coach or an analyst or something that's being the small little voice in the back of their head that says, hey, we need to pump up the volume just a little bit as we do head down the home stretch. It looks like EDG may have found themselves a relatively early engagement. They got a team that's pinned up underneath. I don't think they've found a knock yet, so I doubt they'll full send this.
Beautiful shots as you say that. YRV now, they get 2 down on TYK. And Sato, well, he's the last one left standing here for the boys of TYK and Edward Gaming, looking to keep their foot on the front foot here and the pedal to try and get rid of TYK. We have 20 squads still standing. This is game number 8 of our regional finals.
Spicy here. This is what we were hoping to see when you convene on a regional finals. I don't know about you guys, but I always love to see that game number approach 9, 10, 11. Let me see just how high we can push this thing, especially as we have seen the legend bans going in the fashion they have. I don't think we're going to be unbanning any of our currently banned legends anytime soon, which means all of these players who can play this game at the highest of level are really going to have to flex their stuff, especially or some of the teams like Dog Red who need to win in order to be able to punch their ticket. Got to show up when the light's the brightest.
BCG now have their hands full. Mama Clubs moving into the action. As we can see, with 20 squads still standing, there's a lot of places still to play. There's a lot of teams still standing. A lot of action to be had. Beautiful shots coming out. As we can see, Rendang being aggressive. They look to maybe get it down here. They do get it down on XD, and that is PXX. Do Rendang decide to push?
Felt trouble here. PXX end up completely out of the story and out of the situation. They are going to be able to fall back and get back to their feet. Will they be given the space to be able to get a reset? It does look like they should be relatively comfortable in that regards. And PXX have actually found themselves a relatively solid spot on the backside of Grow Towers as well. So while maybe facing a little bit of adversity early, I think they'll be all right with where they're at.
Edward Gaming just going around the map to get their shields up. They will get another little Evo halve there, and they're looking pretty good here before they get into zone queue. So sitting in a pretty good position. They'll be able to watch a lot of teams as well making their way in. Gen G, on the other hand, they're trying to figure out where to play. As we can see, Noel saying also trying to make his way into zone for Team Orchard. And they're going to set up now to see where they should play as well. But this is a pretty tough spot, Q, especially when you got nades and teams that can just look over top of you.
Right now, I think it's just an unfortunate scenario that you find yourself in, but you try and do the best of with what you got. They were able to get a reset, it looked like. We'll have to see if they end up finding a better place to be able to reposition. We had talked about Havoc in the break between these last games, a team that's kind of threatening towards the bubble itself, especially after not having the best of days thus far. And with the fact that that middle third of the pack so close, a quick exit here in game number 8 could really have them counting on the rest of the lobby if they're still going to be finding themselves off the EWC. You know that Wolves are in a position as far as for themselves. They only need 1 point to put themselves on match point. Got some nades getting sent their way, but they should be able to weather the storm.
And this PXX that is close by to him as well. So this is going to be an interesting fight. If PXX decide to go up against Wolves Esports, we may see one of our match point teams go out early, considering that I don't think they know it's one of the most scariest teams in the world.
I mean, how would you know at this point, right? You can only guess, maybe. I mean, Wolves was supposed to be in the general vicinity, but it's still so hard to tell. For Wolves, though, oh, hold on. They'll see that little bit of that blue streak. They know someone's looking towards their area. For now, they'll just continue to hunker on down. But we have yet to see anybody eliminated, at least if there was. They've been brought back into the play. 60 players still left standing in this lobby. All 20 squads at full strength, and a majority of them, some way, shape, or form, are in the general vicinity around Grow Tower.
It seems like my game hates Olympus. I just seem to be lagging every time we come to this bloody map. BCG though, making their way to zone. Oh, sorry, I'll take that back. They're making their way out of zone, as we can see teams like HAB and W very close by to them and in a little bit of trouble here, Q.
Tough, tasting blood already down. Black Road should be able to get the med kit fully hit. Will they be able to get fully reset? Here's PXX out here on the outskirts taking this fight with Wolves, and Wolves Esports will be eliminated again at that 49-point marker. They will not be moving up to match point.
BCG now moving in back onto HAB and W, as there is only one man left standing. That is Ahoy, and he is already gone. So there's no way they will find him here in game number 8. We still have all our 5 match point teams left standing, and go and have a look at where this zone is going, and it does look like a Grow Towers finish here for match 8.
That's going to be good news for PXX, who just cleared their backside of Wolves. They should probably push, back towards those buildings. Now, I do remember there was a point alpha at Champs. You and I had talked about those buildings. They're easy to get naded out in a similar sense that we had just seen Wolves get kind of pushed. But the good news, again, for PXX is they'll be able to isolate their 6 and make sure that no one pushes in from that end. Relove DCG, just seen of them have a really strong game. You mentioned 2 of the last 3 looked really good for this squad. Let's see if they can carry that momentum over and see if they can get across the finish line.
This is where it gets real interesting, especially for teams like DCG, right? Did they use all their wins a little too early on the day? This is where it gets a little bit testy, and well, for them, they just ran straight in to where Gen G are looking at teams. PXX still alive and looking to try and get rid of VK Gaming, who have taken Wolves' spot, where PXX just cleared them up earlier. Mama Clubs very close by to Rendang with 19 squads still left alive. Let's go and have a look at the zone and see where teams are making their way in. We can see Aram, well, they have their hands full, as it looks like RRQ maybe making their way into where they think zone will pull, but we'll have to wait and see with round 3 now finally being shown to all the legends. RRQ and Aram in a pretty good spot, but they both have their hands full right above each other.
See if they can get their players back up to a full 3 here. Turning the corner, map seems still low. I don't know who this is that's pushing on them here. Nice fire and shots across, though. Able to find the knock. Are they going to be able to complete the wipe is the question.
Oh, they will. RQ do get rid of Aram, and just like that, we are now down to 18 squads. And here comes Team Orchid, as they do need to get their day started here. Looking to try and get a third party on RRQ, but they will move back and play it slow for now.
Apple overlay, still left the gun. Tony?
Oh, nope, sorry.
Appreciate you. Yep. DCG, though, you did mention the spot that they were sitting. A decent spot down on that southern side, as long as they can continue to hold the line as far as where they're at. I mean, I feel like they've been able to isolate themselves and keep most of the teams that are in the general vicinity at bay. And if it continues to pull down in this direction, DCG could very well make things interesting by taking one of those spots away from those top 9, which when you talk about those teams that are vying in that 7, 8, 9 position, you can start getting a little scary like you were talking about.
Gen G still in their spot. They will need to rotate though, Q, as it gets closer now towards the end of the game. Beautiful shots coming out from Ziki, though. I think he's getting a lot of damage on the board here with 18 squads still standing. There's a lot of people to look at.
We're looking at TYK was a team that was right across the way. Neither team had been able to find an opening just quite yet. Victory Esports, we saw them have a good start to the day. They've been, I feel like, quiet is probably a fair assessment, and we'll just leave it as far as that. Dog Red, one of our teams that does have the ability to end things here, and In similar fashion like we saw in the last game, we'll try and see if they can play the edge as far as for now. And with those shots at a distance, HABNW eliminated.
And that's Dog Red getting the job done. S8UL, every single one of our match point teams are still standing here in Zone 4. We have a minute until this starts to close queue. And, well, there's a lot of action still left to be had. And as we can see, that's Mama Clubs moving in onto BCG in Gardens. And, well, they have the upper hand already with BCG. One member down. There's only one man left standing. It's going to be a 1v1 situation. Both teams here today struggling. Mama Clubs and BCG. But BCG will get eliminated. Mama Club's going to get eliminated as well. Here comes Dog Red for the third party.
I'm gonna say, I'm sure you probably felt like you were fine taking a fight off at Gardens, but the third party pulls up. It's Dog Red who's on the hunt, trying to do the best that they can to help eliminate this lobby and whittle it on down, because they are going to look to try to end things here in game number 8. Team Ubi's also been relatively quiet today. Rocking the Vantage over on Avisan. We're seeing a little bit more of the Vantage coming out with more of these teams having to dig a little bit deeper into their legend pool. EDG, unfortunately, has lost their Wraith, which means they're going to struggle on their rotates from here.
Victory Esports now moving on in. Down goes X-Bolts, Avisan, and it's just all the non-match point teams going up against each other at the moment. Doom's MVP, the last one standing for his squad. It's a 1v1 situation, and the caustic gas will get rid of Victory Esports without them having to do much work at all. TYK now down to a duo, and they need to rotate in, but they're getting looked at by S8UL and the rest of the map.
Yeah, they can find themselves some safety, because S8UL, while they're looking their direction, they do technically have a squad right on the other side of them as well. So who do they prioritize? That's going to have to be what gets figured out. EDG, we're here in the middle of the ring. We mentioned earlier they had lost their Wraith. However, you do have the ability to hunker down off of the back of that rampart. Looks like they've been able to do a good job of playing as a duo thus far. But DCG, they are still pretty well all by themselves on this southern side, keeping in mind they're one of our match point teams.
Look at this. So many teams left alive, and all 5 of our match point teams are still alive. VKG in a pretty good spot. They're going to have to try and find their way into zone as well. Team Orchid, they are on the outside of zone at the moment, and they have their hands full. They haven't had much luck today at all, Q. And, well, if it finished right now, they would not be heading to EWC as well.
Havoc trying to create a little bit of their namesake here out on the far western side. Rosie's already fallen. Dog Red also trying to find their way towards this zone as well, and see if they can at least find themselves a reset before they start pushing forward more.
VKG in a really good spot. Just playing very large at the moment is QQ. And as he can hear the fights starting to pop off, he knows that Ubi are down to a solo, as he is doing all this work himself at the moment. TYK get eliminated. We are now going to see Team Orchid get eliminated as well. Havoc get the job done. Every single match point team is still standing. We may see this finished right now.
Chances are that it will, more likely than not, as 5 teams that have the ability to end it. 4 have the chances to extend it here. Dog Red was one of our first teams that was on match point, actually the very first team. They do need to win it, otherwise there's a good chance that they'll be the first team that's on the outside looking in for EWC. And it's RRQ in a situation they have found themselves in time and time again here today, left with the solo.
Dog Red, I don't like their positioning right now. They're kind of stuck on that western side of zone, and guess who they've ran into? That is S8UL, and S8UL now are down to a solo. And this doesn't look good at all for the boys of S8UL, Titan Esports Club. The only team really, I feel like at the moment, that can keep this going for us. Beautiful shots coming out from 174. He's going to move to try and find a better spot to play as well. It is all coming down to these last 8 squads, and well, 4 squads left alive on match point, and only 3 that can keep this going.
PXX is a nice elevated spot though here right in the middle. If they can clear this team that's under them and get themselves a reset, this could very well be a winning position for PXX, but they need to wipe this fight quickly because you do have VKG that's kind of just sitting out on that eastern side, DCG alone on the southern side of the zone.
This is where it gets interesting. Gen G 174 is still just being very aggressive. With 7 squads still standing, it does seem like this could be where it finishes. Dog Red have all of a sudden, Q, found themselves a very good spot here as well. DCG need to be careful. It all comes down to this. Round number 6 starts to close.
It's all about where these first fights take out, and EKG have been able to play out of sight and out of mind. We've been pretty well sitting in on all of the other match point teams who are looking at one another in some way, shape, and form. And now PXX will be looking the direction of VKG, who is trying to close their way on in. It looks like they will be playing from the low ground here, however. It's going to be important for PXX not to overextend.
This is where it comes down to these teams. 7 squads still alive. Beautiful shots coming out from DCG. DCG look really good. This is where it is about to end. We have 1 minute and 30 seconds left to go. Which team will be heading to EWC? RRQ, well, Easy Flash, lucky he's got as many caustic gas traps that he can sit behind right now, with Dog Red still standing. We still have, I think, only 2 teams that can help us to keep this going. That is Rendang and Titan Esports Clubs. Beautiful shots coming out from Dog Red, though. We have 7 squads still left standing.
Feeling the anxiety for Dog Red itself. It feels like they've got themselves a really good spot. They're slow walking these walls to give them protection, as well as the ability to amplify the damage that they're putting out. VKG out, Team RRQ out as well. And is there a chance for Dog Red to punch their ticket to land here today?
2 teams that are on match point, 2 teams that aren't, and we can see now Dog Red making their way in. The caustic gas is going to try and get the job done. Rendang get eliminated. DCG about to get eliminated. Or can they get rid of PXX? They get rid of PXX. It is going to be a DCG or Dog Red ticket to land. DCG will get the victory, and Rowie heads back to EWC once again for Split 1 playoffs.
Roy's our boy. Roy's our boy. Roy's our boy. What a performance from DCG here today in regional finals. They came into today on the outside looking in, and to be able to punch their ticket as the victors here today has to have them feeling good. But now the question becomes, how does the rest of the field fall into line? Because I have a feeling for a team that was oh so close, we could have a team that is in Dog Red that falls 1 point short.
Oh my God, Rowie is heading back to the Split 1 playoffs. Our favorite man to celebrate, and that is exciting there for DCG. Dog Reds finished 2nd in that game, and PXX in the top 3. Let's go and have a look at the series overall, though, and see how it looks here. And well, Relove DCG will be heading to EWC. Dog Red finishes 2nd. VK Gaming finishes 3rd. PXX finishes 4th, and S8UL will finish in the top 5. Rendang move into 6th spot, which means we would have run into game number 9 with only 6 teams on match point moving forward.
Keep in mind, before we get to see the overall leaderboards, DCG already gets their ticket punched. VKG, as the defending champions, also get their tickets punched, which means technically it's the next 7 teams in points that also will be going to Split 1 LAN.
And you know what's crazy? Dog Red needed a win or a 2nd to punch themselves to EWC.
Is the 2nd enough?
Yeah, I think a second is just enough. But we'll have to wait and see. We've got a fair bit more to cover. And DCG to win 3 of the last 4 games to win this event is insane.
Roy's our boy. Roy's our boy. I'm so excited to see Roy back on land, man. I cannot wait. I feel like every time that man's on camera, we get ourselves some pretty good moments. DCG to be able to come out on top. And yeah, like you mentioned, and I mean, huge games too. It was what, 26 points in match number 7, 25 points in match number 8. And I think there was a double-digit win or close to it in match number 5 as well. They really turned up the heat when they needed to.
Man, that is insane. What a day. What a day of Apex. Let's go and have a look, though, Q, at the top 5 kills and damage leaders after today.
Bafa Fif will sit on top with the 19. Lil San, you said that. Who did you say that was S8UL?
S8UL, yep.
DC, yeah, for there is 6 with the 16. Kilopause at 15, and Gap Wang also at 15. So 2 there together from the same squad that was looking for a big day, and they showed up in a big way.
They did. That was a huge way. Top 5 damage leaders. Well, Fafa Fifth will finish the day with 11.3k damage. No Name sits second. S8UL third. Kilopause fourth. And LQ Dud rounds out our top 5. Well, Q.
My stomach can't take it anymore.
I feel like we've seen a lot today. There's one more thing we need to see, and that is the ALGS standings. Now, before we come in today, I was looking into it, and I was like, okay, Dog Red, there's a lot of things they need to do to win, to even make EWC, but to get second or first, you cement your spot anyways, right? Second, I think, is the only position they needed to finish to make it to EWC.
Yeah, lobby to work. We'll see.
Let's go and have a look.
We'll see. They need the rest of the lobby to work out. No way. By a point? Okay. It's more than a point, but it's still close. Dog Red sneak into the number 9 spot. So it means we've had 2 teams switch up and be able to sneak into that top 9. Dog Red and DCG. Of course, DCG, we mentioned, would have gone anyways because they won regional finals. But as per usual, we generally see them still finish within those qualifying teams. So it's Wolves, S8UL, VK Gaming, PXX, RRQ, Havoc, Gen G, Relove DCG, and Dog Red as the 9 teams that will be going off to Paris to represent APAC South.
Insane. That is the 9 teams to represent our region going into Paris for Split 1 playoffs. What a split, Q. I still pinch myself that we get to do this every weekend. It is so exciting. I think we've now just watched 9 of our best teams show out today. And I feel like after watching that, I feel pretty comfortable in who we are sending for our region. But from the bottom of my heart, Q, I appreciate you. We've had an amazing 10 weeks. The Split 2 schedule, though, looks pretty insane. We have 4 weekends in a row of 3 match days back to back to back every weekend until we send a team to Split 2 playoffs, which is insane. So, is there... Well, what's the end for Battleground HQ? There's no end. We have PLQ just a month and a half away. Now, that means the top 22 teams from CC and the bottom 8 teams from... I know, I think it's the top 32. Top 32 from CC and the bottom 8 from Pro League. Tomorrow afternoon at 3 p.m. SGT, I will be live casting the CC finals here, and that is the last one for APAC South. So make sure you come by, show some love, and then we'll be heading over and doing a little bit of watch party action over on APAC North. But Q, no better way to start the first weekend with APAC South